With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
The end of the championship is coming quickly for the PRL GT3 series. There's only 4 rounds left for championship challenges to be born, died, or even resurrected. Ooh, how spooky. Tonight we've flown about 500 GT3 cars, something like that, down to Brazil, and I'm nervous because I haven't been studying up on my Portuguese, but benvenido to round 7 of 2023 Season 4 for the Tuesday night GT3 series in the PRL as the Fixed and Sprint series take on beautiful Interlagos. Hi everybody, Joey Tebben here, oh so spooky in the booth, alongside Reese Gardner as Arjuna's away eating peaches in Atlanta or something, and our producer Dustin Ollis is behind the scenes as well. Well, Reese, the Brazilian GP's coming up in the real world, so we're being nice and thematic by going to the same track in the GT3 series this week. What Brazilian challenges do we have in store tonight?
That is the big question. Been looking forward to seeing how this goes in the GT3 field. Interlagos, definitely a fantastic circuit in any style of racing. What I am expecting is plenty of overtaking at the very numerous hairpins and tight corners at this very historic track.
And as I mentioned, we're past halfway in the championship now. We're getting into crunch time. Only 4 more rounds to go in 2023. We've got Interlagos this week. It's our thematic Halloween race, and then things start to get a little bit crazy to the end of the season. Next week, that's been the big wild card that everybody's had circled, the Circuit de Lebanon, one of the newest tracks on iRacing. It's a track that basically nobody in this field will have any experience with, and suddenly, Reese, they've got to finally stop looking at it as a theoretical, and they've actually got to start practicing and learning that track for next week.
Yeah, exactly. Lebanon is going to be an interesting one, isn't it? Very short, very tight, very twisty. And I mean, you know, some of us would have driven it in week 13, a few months ago. But other than that, probably it's gone to the back of the mind. So get out there and start learning it again, people, because you're going to need to know it for next week.
Go down to Lebanon School, get learned up, because you're going to need it. Let's take a look at the driver standings as they've developed over the first 6 rounds of this season. Shockingly, well, these are actually 1 week late points, so I'll tell you the real points right now. Actually, Jeff Carollo is actually in the Drivers' Championship lead after last week. He's actually jumped Eric Kulaga by 1 point. Then Artie Mercedes is up to 3rd, and Sortino Walden down to the end of the top 5. Those are interesting drivers and important drivers to know about, because drop weeks are in consideration right now. We've got to start thinking about the championship. You've got a driver like Ross Sortino, who's 17 points behind Jeff Carollo. Sortino's been faster on track for the most part, other than last week where Carollo won. So they're going to be thinking about that championship as that develops. Don't worry, we'll be doing all the numbers and all the tracking for you as things develop over the next 4 weeks. We'll take a look at the team's championship standings as well. We'll see if they're correct. Those are actually 1 week out of date as well, but the order hasn't changed very much. It's still Vulture Motorsports North at the top of the table. They've just got nearly 100 points more than they did last week. Then Scuderia Lunatic Racing and SGE Esports, they've actually switched around. Lunatic are looking forward, they're moving forward. Basically every single other team in this order has not changed positions, and there are the updated points. How about that? How beautiful is that? Now that the points as they stand are correct, these are the correct team standings. We'll get you the correct driver standings in the GT3 Sprint series when that comes up a little bit later. But it's about time for qualifying. Before we can get into that, though, we've got to thank all the people who make all of this possible here in the PRL. And that starts first and foremost with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox Sim Racing offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceSpotTV and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision 5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce Moradness, is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moreadness.com. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Hedge iRacing Photography. Capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. Thanks to all of those guys making everything possible here on RaceSpotTV and the PRL. And now it is officially qualifying time. It's somewhat frightening, Reese, because by the looks of the sky, it seems like there's some forest fires going around in the forest of Sao Paulo.
Yeah, we have some decidedly foggy conditions out there in virtual Sao Paulo. 24 degrees Celsius track temperature with 98% humidity. That's some of the highest humidity that I have seen in a very long time in an iRacing hosted session. It means that the visibility is very much down for the drivers. Not too sure how exactly it's going to affect pace, but seems like lap times are relatively what I'd expect for GT3 machinery, as Douglas Corey going to provisional pole position in his BMW.
The big lap for Douglas Corey. Hasn't been on pole this season, hasn't been on pole ever in the PRL, and he's had some good speed at times this season. This could be a big day for him if he can beat most of his teammates to pole here. You see Luis Grullon, the driver who's won more races than anybody this season, down in 17th. Eric Kulaga, the driver, 1 point off the championship lead as well. He's down in 17th, so in 16th rather. So both of these guys, 6/10 off Douglas Corey on pole. They're both looking for some big lap time gains here in these last 3 minutes if they want to keep their championship hopes that little bit more alive.
And driving on board here with Luis Grullon, it's definitely giving you a good idea of how little visibility they have out there at the moment, but they've driven into Interlagos so many times, all of these drivers. It's a track that just about all of us know like the back of our hands, so just follow your marks and you can get it done. Let's see what Luis can do to improve his qualifying position out from here. Getting in a little bit of the slipstream down the start-finish stretch here at Interlagos, and it's a very long start-finish stretch, isn't it, Joey? It's a place where you can definitely pick up a big slipstream on your way down to turn 1, which is where we'll probably see most of the passing here tonight.
It's made an improvement by about 2/10. It's going to get him very further up the board, up into 8th, but it's not going to be good enough for pole, as his fellow Ferrari Ross Sortino's actually put it up onto pole in the dying minutes, while Douglas Corey is still down pit lane. If he wants to get one more lap in, he's got to come out almost immediately with only 1 minute 50 left on the clock, and he's going to have a full fuel tank in the tank of this car. It's a fixed setup series. You can't put on a special quality setup with low fuel. You've basically got to be out there expending your fuel to get that car as light as possible for the entire session. Here's last week's winner, Jeff Carollo. Finally got a triumphant first win at Road America last week. He's not going to improve on this lap, but he's going to be able to go one more time around to see if he can match his phenomenal performance at Road America last week and maybe go 2 for 2. Maybe right after he gets his first win, that'll start being the thing that gives him tons of confidence. He's only got one more lap to get up on the second row, though.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's the point you make about the motivation you get finally breaking victory up. It's definitely something that I've noticed has been beneficial in my sim racing experience. Once I started winning, the wins just continued coming, and maybe it'll be the same for Jeff Carollo here. What he's got to do though is make up about 4/10 of a second. That's what the gap is to Ross Sortino there, who's managed to just nab pole from Douglas Corey. And seems like the Porsche is reasonably competitive here at the moment. I'm not too sure which other Porsches are in this field. This is my first time commentating on this series, but at least the spread of the top four, top five is it seems pretty even between the makes. We've got a Ferrari on pole, we've got BMWs in second and fifth, followed by another Ferrari and this Porsche. But Carollo out of the final corner, cutting across pit entry here, still burning off the fuel, and it looks like he might just manage to get this next lap in. 132.8. Ah, unfortunately not an improvement, but the checkered flag is out. He won't be able to improve on that.
He will be able to go around one more time, though, as the checkered flag flies. You do get to finish laps that you've started,
yes.
So he's going to go around one more time. Luis Grullon was going around one more time, but really missed the corner there. He's not going to improve. Here's Michael Fowler in one of the few Mercedes in the field. There's only two of them. There's him and there's Kevin Bergquist, and there's just them two. So he's trying to do the Mercedes mark proud. Currently down in P20, one of his lower qualifyings of the season, but he was so fast in the last races of last season when he was behind the wheel of the Porsche. Kind of made the wrong choice of car this season for speed. Maybe it was the right choice for him in terms of his comfortability, but I think it's really shown that a driver of his caliber that was qualifying in the top 5, fighting for podiums last season, is just kind of at the end of the top 20 in this Mercedes. But he's chosen to stick it out, and he's only got 4 more races to deal with this car, and then he can start fresh next season.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you might as well commit. And sometimes going for a car that you're familiar with is a big boon in a series like this. I'm sure we all know how chaotic GT3 racing can be in official series. Of course, PRL much cleaner, being a hosted league. Unfortunately, that was a little bit of an off track for Michael Fowler coming out of the final proper corner of the lap. Buck Hamilton, meanwhile, trying to improve in the dying moments. Jeff Carollo, 133.0 once again. That is not an improvement on his fastest time, and it looks to me like that's going to be just about everyone, Joey.
Looks like that is indeed just about everybody. Last driver was Robert Jeffries, no improvement from him. And as soon as Jeff Carollo decides to get off the track and bring it down pit lane, we'll have the grid for you, because there's some surprises up front. You've got Douglas Corey on the front row after he's had a couple of good qualifyings this season. He's really shown some pace at certain tracks. Is he going to be able to deliver and bring it home on the podium today? He's going to have a very quick driver ahead of him in Ross Sortino, who's won multiple races this season. He is very much still in the championship battle, even being 17 points back after having a couple of bad races to start the season. He's looking forward, and he's going to start from the pole alongside the aforementioned Douglas Corey. Steven Martinez, I believe his best qualifying of the season in the top 3. He starts alongside last week's winner, Jeff Carollo. Eric Kulaga, great run from him at the end. Jumped from 17th to 5th to start alongside Sully Saad. And then down on row 3, it's Felix Feliz, a pole sitter this season, alongside Waldo Walden, having his best season ever in the GT3s. Artie Mercedes and Luis Grullon, 2nd and 3rd at Road America last week. They're down at the end of the top 10. Not going to be happy with that, as they sit right ahead of B&O Racing's Andrew Trickett and SGE's Buck Hamilton. But the hits keep on coming, because unlucky 13th went to Jared Keane. Tyler Graff is here. We're not seeing him on Monday nights anymore on RaceSpotTV, but he's made time for Tuesday nights, and that's good. John Jones and another Ferrari starts alongside Alex Wright. And then it's Dale Peterson in his very yellow Ferrari, starting alongside Peter Muller in his very shiny Porsche. Down to the end of the top 20, it's Matthew St. Aubin, Michael Fowler, Colin McKenzie for Lunatic Racing in a new livery today. I'm going to be interested to see what that's all about. He starts alongside Ian Cabana. And then it's Michael Kulaga, related to Eric Kulaga, alongside Jim Feliz, unrelated to Felix Feliz. Not confusing at all. Luke Davis, Joachim Backer, Robert Jeffries, Christopher Rhines, Kevin Bergquist, and David Morse bring us to the end of the top 30. And that is nearly it, because there's one more driver, Sean Mulholland, but he did not qualify. He's not on the grid right now, so it'll be 30 drivers on the grid, taken to the green here at Interlagos in just a matter of moments. I'm nervous, Reese. I'm out of breath because it's a big grid, and we've got a short pace lap. You've only got a little bit of time to warm up those tires, and then we'll be racing at Interlagos.
Yep, for 35 minutes is the race length here, and like all series in the PRL, there's going to be a potential fuel stop on the line as well. Looks to me like the humidity has actually gone up since qualifying. Still
How is that even possible?
I know, that's amazing. And we are starting very early too. 5:50 a.m. The drivers have obviously gotten up incredibly early for this one.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. 5:50 a.m.
Hope
But
your coffee's strong.
I'm no meteorologist, so I don't really know how humidity works, but 99% humidity. I know that doesn't mean the air is 99% water, but that's big humidity. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know either, but regardless, those are the conditions that the drivers have been given, and they're going to have to work their way through it and deal with the visibility. So here we go then, and I mean wind as well, 14 miles per hour. I mean, these are some really interesting conditions these drivers are having to deal with.
100% humidity, low temperatures. It's 5:50 in the morning. It's going to be like racing through soup today at Interlagos. It's going to be very interesting. But we've got a very experienced driver up at the front in Ross Sortino. He's won multiple races this season, has started from pole many times, alongside Douglas Corey, a driver who doesn't quite have the same amount of time up front. He's had flashes of pace, hasn't had the wins or the podiums of Sortino, though. Who comes out on top, Reese, real quick?
I have absolutely no idea. This is a series that I'm intensely unfamiliar with. I'm just going to take all of this with an open mind and an open heart. I just hope that all the drivers have a nice time.
How beautiful. It's Halloween. It's all about sharing. It's all about candy. No tricks from Reese Gardner. Just a couple of treats. But we're ready to go racing here for round 7. The iRacing Porsche pace car is going to go hiding into its hidey hole in a matter of moments, pulling onto pit lane, leaving control of the field in the hands of Ross Sortino in that dark British racing green Ferrari. The green flag is going to fly at Interlagos. They're arguing on the front straight, and the green flag is officially out now. We're racing in the PRL GT3 Fix Series as they file into turn 1. Single file for the top 3, single file for the top 4. Kulaga to the inside of Sully Saad, though, down the Senna S for the first time, and there's big trouble at the back of the field. Ian Cabana's around already. Jim Feliz off the road. The top 15 or so made it through cleanly, and big calamity already at the back of the field.
Colin McKenzie also off there. Now they come down to Desida do Lago, and it will be on for the lead here with Douglas Corey right behind Ross Sortino. This, oh goodness, and let's see if there's any jostling for position through here, as this is another one of the places where you can see crashes on the opening lap, potentially even through here coming up into Ferradura where the track narrows up, but it looks like they've made it through cleanly.
Things have not gone well for Jeff Carollo. He had a clean start, filed into turn 1 fourth, and then has lost 3 spots already. He's lost a spot to Feliz, to Saad, to Mercedes. He's just trying to recover right now. Meanwhile, Eric Kulaga, his championship rivals, up onto the podium in that BMW. Artie Mercedes is up 4 spots from P10. It's all kicking off. You see John Jones in the blue and green and yellow Ferrari going around the outside of Jared Keane. Great move from him as he resolves that up down to the bottom of the hill. Now up over the top of the hill to end lap 1. Gaps already forming. Sortino a huge gap over Steven Martinez. And where's Douglas Corey?
We completely missed as, oh, there's another incident, unfortunately. That looks like Luke Davis in the Scuderia Lunatic car. We completely missed Douglas Corey going for a spin out of turn 4.
Yeah, that's where all the promotions came from. Douglas Corey in massive trouble on lap 1. We'll catch the race spot replay of that right here. Here it is. Down the hill, behind Sortino, clips the curb, and there it is. Total destruction. Inches into the race. Jeff Carollo, that's how he lost all of his spots. But Douglas Corey made it about 5 corners, and then it was instant heartbreak.
That's such a shame for Douglas Corey, and he's got a bonnet that is barely attached to the car. He's having to deal with quite a bit of front-end damage as a result of that. Real shame. That's not the way that you want to start your night, especially when the race is only 35 minutes long.
Really had lots of drama here early on. It's only been 2 laps in the books, and we've already lost Davis, Cabana, McKenzie, and Fowler. We haven't lost Corey yet. He's still out there, but you have to imagine heavily, heavily damaged. You see, we get the replay of turn 1. This is what happened to Ian Cabana. You saw it at the back of your screen. There he is getting turned, I think, by the 33 of Joachim Backer, and then seemingly the rest of the field avoids him, but he wasn't quite so lucky with that first bit of contact. You can see that's a heavily damaged Ferrari front end, and Ian Cabana's race essentially over before it even started.
Yeah, real shame for him, and the contact continued a little bit through the first turns here as Jared King's off, and oh, that is proper bad luck there. That was Kevin Bergquist, who spun straight into him as he was trying to recover. Now that Mercedes has no front bumper, man, there's been so many casualties to this race already. We're not even 5 minutes in.
Yeah, it's too early in the morning, 5:50 a.m. All these guys are still tired. They're still waking up on the track, and we've already lost 5 total cars. Kevin Bergquist, the latest addition to that. Luis Grullon, remember, he started in the last row of the top 10. Was once a championship contender in this series, won the first 3 races of this season, looked like he was going to be totally unbeatable, and then things kind of came undone at Laguna Seca, got disqualified from the race, and that's really unsettled his championship chances. He's still looking forward. But we've got Michael Fowler here on lap 1. He's the purple Mercedes, and that is just total destruction with Joachim Backer as well, and everybody else just piling in, coming up over the top of the hill.
Instantly towing back to the pits, and his race is over. Meanwhile, we see battling further back here, coming through the hairpin. That's the Ferrari of Luis Grullon trying to make a move on Ardi Mercedes with obviously another team car there. Pass made nice and easy at Junsao, and looks like Luis is starting to make a charge forward. Remember, he started in 10th up to 7th, and he is looking rather pacey. Could be passing Jeff Carollo into turn 1 here, but Carollo trying to go defensive here. Fortunately, heavy braking zone at the first turn. You can try moves around the outside if you need to, but looks like Grullon just backing out of it for the time being. He'll be waiting for Interlagos.
This is nearly the order of the finish at Road America last week. Carollo won, Mercedes was second, Grullon was third because the 2 teammates were fighting with each other. Right now, Grullon's going to be fighting with Carollo, though he switches to the inside into the last corner on the back straight, and he gets him down the hill. Carollo's trying to recover. Mercedes is trying to slot in line after an insane move into Interlagos. That's Luis Grullon through, and everybody else still swarming behind. Buck Hamilton trying to go around the outside of Ardi Mercedes up over Ferradura. He's eventually got a slot in line after a seemingly 5-corner-long battle. Everybody's got to slot back in line and get sane again.
Yeah, that was almost an amazing run there from Buck Hamilton. He had a fantastic run of momentum off Interlagos with the side-by-side between Carollo and Grullon, and Mercedes not being able to get his momentum up as well. But he has to fall back a little bit for the time being, let them fight amongst themselves. Now that Grullon is through on Jeff Carollo, see what he can do to make up the gap to Sully Sard up ahead.
Bad news for Douglas Corey fans. You saw what happened to him on lap 1. 5 corners in after starting on the front row. It was all over for him. He's had to tow it back to pit lane after another incident, and his day is going to be over. But he'll take some confidence in his qualifying speed. He's had that same speed at some previous races this season. So hopefully we see him fast in some of the final races. Maybe at the wild card at Lebanon next week. Tyler Graff here in P11. As I mentioned, not a driver we saw last night. He's had some new work commitments. He's had less time for iRacing, less time to practice, but he's doing a great job. And right ahead of him, he sees some potential positions with Carollo and Mercedes side by side down into Interlagos again. It's not going to be so easily resolved this time. Mercedes is going to give himself an off track by going off there, but he's not going to give it up until he's physically forced to slot in behind Jeff Carollo up over the hill.
Here comes Hamilton as well. Oh, they are all very close together at the moment. Yeah, that off-track on the exit of Interlagos is something that's been the bane of my existence ever since I started driving on this track in iRacing. You've really got to be careful with how you use the curb on the exit of that corner, and that's something that the drivers are going to have to be extremely careful of, considering that after 13 incident points, you will get a drive-through in this series. And just an aside on Douglas Corey, looks to me like he just pulled over. He didn't necessarily have a problem that caused him to tow, but judging by his lap times, he was 2 seconds off what the rest of the drivers are doing. I think he just figured it was too damaged to continue, and he'd call it a night.
Makes him officially the 5th retirement of the race. Kevin Berquist is still actually out there after that damage he got in the Mercedes, but it's Davis, Cabana, McKenzie, Fowler, and Corey, the casualty list so far. The battle for the podium's heating up as we've kind of ignored the front 5 as things heated up at the end of the top 10. Sortino's pulled away, Martinez is pulled away, Feliz and Kulaga and Sully Saad, though, throw a blanket over all 3 of them. They're all trying to take that last podium spot away. Feliz goes defensive on Sully Saad, down into the Interlagos. Still got to hold him off up the hill. It's the middle sector, tight and twisty, difficult to pass. And Saad is putting the pressure on Feliz. Hasn't been able to force him into a mistake yet, though.
Yeah, certainly. This is a fantastic battle for the top positions in this race. Sully Saad, though, a little bit slow at the apex. Looks like he went too deep and got into the back of Feliz there. So he's lost momentum, has potentially picked up some minor damage to his front end. And now Luis Grullon, who has been on an absolute march forward ever since the start of the race, he is right on the back of the 2 Porsches.
Could that be 2 more positions for him? P4, maybe even P3 if you think about it. He's ahead of Jeff Carollo right now. He's ahead of the championship leader. He's behind Eric Kulaga, who would likely take over the championship lead. But we do have to talk about Luis Grullon's championship chances. As I mentioned, 3 wins to start the season, but it all came derailed at Laguna Seca. Had a terrible race, got disqualified, and in the PRL you can't drop a disqualification. As the aforementioned Jeff Carollo, though, has to interrupt us, gets passed by Artie Mercedes into turn 1. He's going to have to slot back in line, or he's going to make a little bit of contact with Artie down the hill through the Senna S. Artie's going to be able to recover and hang on to that, but that was a little bit more contact than either of those drivers would have liked, and that's going to bring Buck Hamilton onto the scene, down the Red Pasta. He might get a chance to take P8 away from Carollo.
Seems like Buck Hamilton's race so far has been...
Carollo's gonna send the dive on Artie Mercedes, somehow gets it stopped. Buck Hamilton trying to look for a gap on the inside. This is like boxing. This is full contact sports car racing right now.
Looks like Waldo Walden's going to take advantage there. Get up the inside at Ferradura. Wow, that was a lovely bit of driving there from Artie Mercedes and Jeff Carollo, and I suppose Jeff showing there why he's leading this championship. Very brave on the brakes.
It's like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're throwing kicks and punches. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic fighting here at the moment for what is 7th position right now. It's a proper train of cars. Look at how many drivers are involved in this.
For the record, I don't even know if they throw kicks and punches in jiu-jitsu, but that's the only Brazilian martial art I know of. Coming up over through Yunsao, though. Look at that straight. Look at Tyler Graff, I think, getting a great exit. Look at just about everybody behind, looking so hungry to steal that top 10 away from Buck Hamilton. Tyler Graff's got a great run. John Jones and Andrew Trickett both having some of their best runs of the season as well. Those Ferraris, looking at a BMW ahead, looking at a Ferrari ahead. We ride on board with John Jones. Does he send the dive to the inside of Trickett? He doesn't. Tyler Graff comes down pit lane to get out of this. He thinks he's getting held up too much. Jones and Trickett, though, are going to try and make this move on track.
Yeah, indeed they are. Everyone getting compressed to the point that Tyler Graff figures he's going to lose less time by pitting and getting some clear air. That could be beneficial for him later on. We'll have to wait and see on that. But coming into Desida do Lago here, this 3-car fight of Wright, Peterson, and Moller just behind what we now know is the continuation of the train for 7th spot. They're a little bit more spaced out now at the moment, but I'm sure they'll start compressing soon enough.
This is one of those new Scuderia Lunatic liveries I mentioned. We saw them on the grid. Normally they've got kind of a dazzle camo thing going. They had the breast cancer awareness thing going for the month of October, but now we're down into November, and for the first time a Scuderia Lunatic car kind of just has a solid color on it. It's just solid purple now. I don't know what the story is here.
Yeah, me either. But I think we need to see more purple.
I mean, there's some shapes. There's some shapes on the front end at least, but I don't know what those are.
Oh, there's probably some kind of meaning to it that hopefully we'll get a chance to ask him about. Regardless, Dale Peterson, he's got clear air ahead of him, but he'll probably be wanting to be a little closer to the cars in front of him. John Jones battling hard as into the pits comes the Ferrari of Dale Peterson, and looks to me like he's going to be joined there by Christopher Rines in the Porsche, coming out of 19th spot.
And lots of drivers thinking about an early pit stop. Normally you don't see pit stops in this series until about halfway, because that's just kind of the natural order of things. That's when the fuel tanks start to run out, but there's no reason not to come in early. That's the only way you can perform an undercut in this series, because the races are too short for tire changes to really matter. The only way you can get an undercut is by backing out of traffic, driving clean laps, and hoping your competitors get held up ahead of you. I think that's exactly what we're starting to see a few drivers back off and do, because if you're Luis Grullon, for example, you're absolutely getting held up right now, and you really don't want to be stuck behind that back bumper of Sully Saad.
Yeah, it looks like Grullon's march forward has been stopped by a brick wall in the shape of two Porsches, and look at how close he's getting through the hairpins. He's trying everything he can to get any kind of pace advantage, but I think just a little bit too close to make it work at this stage. He's going to have to focus on the exit of Junsao here, potentially try a run into the first turn. Saad's still close enough to Felix Feliz ahead of him that he might be able to get slipstream and defend the position. But at this point, if I'm Luis Grullon, I'd want to go for the pit lane, but it looks like he's going to stay out a little bit longer.
He's going to try and do it on track. You can see there's visible damage on the front end of that Ferrari. He's been pushing both literally and figuratively. He's going to try and go around the outside the first part of the Senna S. It's not going to work for him. But that Ferrari might be struggling a little bit. There's a noticeable dent. There is noticeable damage. And that's not going to be helping him in a straight line. The places where he really needs to be fast right now.
Yeah, exactly. The run down to Interlagos, you see that he's not getting the momentum down the straight that he needs to actually set up the move, and I think at this point he'll be deciding, yeah, probably time to come into the lane. Speaking of the lane, Mathieu Saint-Aubin is making his way in. He's just completed his pit cycle. Looks like pit stops are running around the 9.5 to 10 second bracket.
Remember those numbers. You see the top 16, the top 20 almost, all still out. There's only been a few stragglers that have come in. John Jones, the leader of them, on his march into the top 10. This is where Luis Grullon was so strong on the previous lap, though. He almost put the bumper to Sully Saad the last time around, Martinsville style. Doesn't get quite so close this time. Coming into Junsao, though, the Kulaga train continues. Feliz still getting held up. Saad still getting held up. Feliz goes wide out of Junsao. That's going to bring Sully Saad into the conversation. It's going to be a Porsche battle right ahead of Luis Grullon, and he's going to be too far back to do anything with it.
Yeah, he's going to lose that very crucial momentum. Does he go for the pits this time? No, just files straight on through the final corner. Here comes Sully Saad then. He's a bit too far back to really go for the dive, though he is going to have a look, try and psych him out in the rear view mirrors. Looks like they're actually gaining some pace here and starting to pressure the back of Eric Kulaga and the BMW there.
Andrew Trickett's down pit lane, but Sully Saad's going to think about going for it again here. Peeks to the inside, lets Felix Feliz know that he's very much there, and he is very much there. Doesn't make contact, but it certainly looked like that was about to happen. Resolves things yet again between the two Porsches, but it's looking again like those full-out fights. I have a feeling we're not too far away from yet another dive. If Sully Saad can get close, he's getting held up too much. He knows he needs to make this move before Luis Grullon gets to him, because he's all the way back to the back of Sully Saad again, trying to go around the outside through the Pico de Pato, then coming down the hill here through one of these long off-camber corners.
Oh,
Grullon goes around. Grullon clips the curb, goes around right in front of Carollo, right in front of his teammate Artie Mercedes. Waldo Walden says, thank you very much, I'll take those spots. And Luis Grullon, he's back down below where he qualified.
Oh, that's such a shame there for Luis. He's unfortunately had his march forward come to an end there, and potentially he'll throw up the white flag and come into the pits this time, surely. because at this point, he needs to get that damage fixed, and he needs to get a bit of a reset on, because obviously the pressure's been getting to him a little too much.
See, as he pull hard left here down pit lane. Felix Feliz up ahead has decided to finally do that. Is Luis going to follow him in? He's not. He's going to go around one more time and keep trying to stretch this. I don't know what's going to happen for him, but what I do know is that this is not going well for his championship. He's 44 points behind the lead. He was doing a great job of starting to work to bring that gap down. And right now, he's 9 spots behind Eric Kulaga. Things are going to struggle for him even more with only 3 rounds to go after this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he is getting a great run out of the first 3 corners. Peter Moller in the Porsche will have to give him room on the inside. Very late dive by the Ferrari. And probably a bit too deep there, because Moller's coming back at him on the inside. Outside into Ferradura can work, but there's still some overlap here. Oh, has to give room to the Ferrari on the inside. And it seems like Grullon might just have it here. So that is 1 more position gained. Let's see if he can make it back to where he qualified.
And he survived the run through Pinarino that time. He's going to try and go for the move on Alex Wright.
Whoa.
This is Bico DePazzo, by the way. I've got to correct myself. It's not the previous little hairpin. It's this one. But he's not able to get by Wright this time. He's going to go off the road to try and get by him. That's not where the track goes, but he's trying to make it work anyway. He's going to be later on the brakes into Yun South, throwing the car into the place where it's so difficult to pass. He gets through on Alex Wright, and he's going to let Peter Mahler get alongside Wright as well. Mahler's going to be in the fray as well on getting back by Grullon in the draft here. Mahler's in a totally clean car. Grullon's got front-end damage. Are either of them going to bring it into the pits this time? No, they're not. They're going to fight it through the set S. Once again, they're still going at it.
Right now, figures a chance might be there to go past, but no, he falls back into line, and Grullon defends the position from Peter Moller very nicely into the first turn here. This is where we might get an idea of whether or not that damage to Luis Grullon is affecting his straight line speed any. It actually seems like the Porsche's not gaining all that much. Meanwhile, further up, it looks like, oh dear, okay, that's a bit of a dive there from the Ferrari of Alex Wright. That brings the other Ferrari of Michael Kulaga into the fray. That is a free position there for the number 82.
Like I said, it's full contact sports car racing. It's happening again here on Halloween. It's all getting spooky and stuff. Alex Wright up into the top 10 now. Kulaga gets that spot on Peter Moller. I think what you were mentioning, Reese, by the way, as things kind of file back into order here. Eric Kulaga in P4 now. He was on the podium very comfortably. Sully Saad finally got by him. And I don't know if it was a mistake for Kulaga or what, but he's just losing heaps of time. It's almost a full second now between the Porsche of Sully Saad and Eric Kulaga in 4th.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to mention just a few moments ago. Will Kulaga decide to bring it into the pit lane from there? Keeping an eye out on Luis Grullon. It looks like he's broken free of what is now a 4-car pack behind him. Will he go for the pit lane now that he has a little bit more potential clear air to go for? No, going to stay out once more. I think he's basically committed to going long at this point, as Kulaga and Moller both go for the lane.
Yeah, Michael Kulaga beating his brother onto pit lane. Somebody in the chat asked, David Mendonça, who we'll see a little bit later today in the GT3 Sprint Series, is that fog or smog? I mean, it is Brazil, so that's a good question, but I think with 99% humidity, it is likely fog. But I don't know. Like I said, I'm no climatologist. I'm no meteorologist. I would look at this and I would say, ooh, it's Halloween smoke, but who knows? Yeah,
well, Interlagos is Portuguese for between lakes, and the town of Interlagos was modelled after the town of Interlaken in Switzerland. So plenty of bodies of water around this part of Sao Paulo, which probably explains the fog generation at this point in the morning.
So it's lake fog. Former NASCAR driver, lake fog. Good to hear about that. That's why we bring you into the booth, Reese. That's why we need you at Lebanon next week. We need all these track facts that we wouldn't have known otherwise.
Yeah, I'll have to brush up on my history of Lebanon. It's certainly a track that's had quite a long history itself, being built in the 1970s. Interlagos, meanwhile, has been around since the late 1930s. It's a very historic racetrack indeed.
So not only was it built between the lakes, it was built between the wars.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how that would translate into Portuguese, but we'll do some research there. I should have been brushing up. Waldo Walden's into the pits, by the way. The SGE teammates of Walden and Hamilton, they've synced up their cycles. They're both down pit lane at the same time. That's going to let Gruyan get a little bit more clean air here to turn as many laps as possible before he's finally got to bring it down pit lane. This is a very, very wide pit window. There's only 12 minutes to go in the race now. This is far longer than we normally see people going, but these fuel tanks have been able to go quite a long while, and the vast majority of the field is still yet to come down pit lane, though. The first pitter that we see is Felix Feliz down in 12th.
Yep, leader of the cars that have pitted. Buck Hamilton comes out just behind him, so it'll be interesting to see where that puts him when the rest of the field decides to make their way into the pits. Jared Keane has completed his pit stop down in 23rd place at the moment. Kevin Bergquist, despite the issues that we've seen from him running down in 25th, he hasn't come in for his stop yet. So himself and the top 11 yet to make their way into the pit lane for their stop. Meanwhile, I'm seeing that Peter Moller has made his way past Matthew Saint-Aubin. Porsche versus BMW. There was a nice little pass there at Ferradura, but our leaders are into the pit lane, Ross Sortino and Steven Martinez.
Yep, everybody's going to come in now, I think. Unless Sally Saad's able to go one more time around, it looks like he's actually going to be able to extend it further than anybody, but race leader Ross Sortino is in. We've basically spent no time at all talking about him, because ever since the start, he had a great start, jumped ahead of Douglas Corey. Douglas spun in front of the field, and Sortino's basically been nursing a 2-second gap over the rest of the field since then. You see him now coming out of the pits. He's going to actually see one of his old rivals, Luis Gruyan, as he exits pit lane. They're not going to be fighting for track position, though. Sortino's done with his stop. Gruyan has yet to stop. They're on track together right now, and maybe Gruyan wants to get a little bit of payback, but it's been totally dominant for Ross Sortino. It's almost untouchable with over a 4-second gap now back to Steven Martinez. This has just been a beautiful morning for Ross Sortino. He's been untouchable. He's been having an Interlagos track day of his own.
He has indeed, and a very quick pit lane transit time as well of about 24.8 seconds according to my own timing screen. His pit stop is in sort of the average to high in terms of pit stop time, 10.5 seconds or thereabouts, but he really made it up on the overall transit time. He is, I think, the second or third quickest pit lane transit that we've seen.
We've got to wait for everybody to come into the pits to start talking about championship points, but I have a feeling that's going to come right here. Is Sally Saad going to finally turn left? Yes, he is. Saad's going to be down. Carollo's going to be down, and I would say most likely Gruyan and Backer and the rest of the gang are going to be as well. We'll see where these guys slot in. If they've been able to save a little bit of extra fuel going this long, are they going to be able to put less fuel into the tanks? That's what they're hoping for. That's what Joachim Backer especially is hoping for from the back of the field after some bad luck at the start. The final few Porsches and a little Ferrari and Luis Gruyan finally taking their final stops.
Yeah, and that will cleanse the field. Left Kevin Bergquist still out on track at the moment. Sortino retakes the lead. Martinez back to second. Felix Feliz is going to filter through in third place. That has been a fantastic run from Felix Feliz so far. Remember, he started in 7th spot.
It's been a terrible run for Sally Saad. He was in 3rd before the pit cycle came around. He got ahead of Kulaga, and he's going to come out in P7 right ahead of John Jones. It's 4 spots to the negative for Sally Saad, maybe even more, because he does have a very hungry John Jones behind him, who's kind of had some bad luck this season. But there's many extra seconds for Andrew Trickett in the box, a couple extra seconds for Waldo Walden. There's a big diversity of pit lane times. Maybe it's a diversity of fuel saving, maybe it's just being able to put less fuel in with that late stop. But either way, it has not worked out for quite a few drivers, and for guys like Jeff Carollo, they've actually been able to take advantage and gain a few extra spots.
They have indeed. Carollo still a position down from where he started, but he looks safe from the pack behind for the time being. The most positions gained in the whole field is 11. That belongs to Christopher Rhines down in 17th spot. In terms of the top 10, John Jones making his way into 8th, up 7 spots so far.
I do have to give a big shout out to John Jones because it hasn't really been his season either in this series or when he's racing with me on Wednesday nights in the PRL Grand National Series. But this has been his best race so far. In the top 10, he's pulled a great strategy move to get up into P8 here, and he's going to be very proud about that. He actually got his first win in the PRL last season at Watkins Glen in this series. He won the opening round of that season. We asked him about it, and he kind of said, I don't know how this happened. I didn't expect to win. And he hasn't matched that until we got to the PRL All-Star Invitational before this season began, and he had a great old time at Daytona and came so close to winning that. So he's had some ups and downs. This is very much an up here at Interlagos, and I'm happy to see John Jones up here.
Yeah, I'm happy to see him here too. Fantastic stuff. Meanwhile, oh dear,
Gruyan.
On the replay.
That's Luis Gruyan.
Oh no, his dramas continue, spinning out of the pit lane. I mean, it's a difficult pit exit at Interlagos, but I think that's certainly something you can easily avoid doing at the best of times. I think Gruyan, the dramas have continued. First losing the front end and then losing the rear coming out of the turn coming up to Pico de Pato. So his dramas show no signs of ending here. It has been a disastrous night for Luis Gruyan.
I feel like Luis has kind of been a driver where if something goes wrong, it just continually goes wrong. There was that race at Laguna Seca where he had a mistake on lap 1, kind of ended up being a bowling ball into turn 1, and it all came undone from there. And now here has some bad luck, ends up on the back foot, ends up with a little bit of damage, and spins on pit lane exit. That's likely going to be the end of his championship challenge. Many times a winner this season. I think he's going to be looking forward to 2024 to get a little bit more consistency in the books and actually fight for this GT3 Fixed Championship. We ride on board with Jeff Carollo, though. Him and Eric Kulaga, they're fighting for this GT3 Fixed Championship this season, and they're going to battle it out on track directly, car to car. Porsche versus BMW. The Joker versus, I think, Sonic and Knuckles on Jeff Carollo's car, something like that. Either way, they found each other.
They have indeed. And Carollo is on the attack. Looking at lap times, Carollo took something like 0.6 of a second out of Eric Kulaga on the previous lap. So he is on a charge right now. Kulaga just needs to try and maintain momentum through these corners and focus on his exits. But for the time being, Carollo has the edge on him. And don't forget, if they run side by side, they have got a long train of cars behind them. Looks to me like 7 cars going down to Dale Peterson, who could take advantage.
I said we would talk about championship points once the pit cycle was resolved, and we're going to do exactly that, because as things stand, Carollo and Kulaga are separated by 1 point in the championship. If they finished where they are right now, with Kulaga 1 spot ahead of Carollo, they would be tied on points in the championship, and then Ross Sortino would actually catch up a little bit, but further back, a couple of spots back actually, these two guys, Andrew Trickett and John Jones, two of the biggest beneficiaries of this pit cycle. John Jones falls 1 spot, Andrew Trickett up 1 spot for BNO Racing, and that's going to be good for them in the team's championship as well. Sortino has been scoring the majority of points for that team in the team's championship. If Trickett can get that Ferrari in the top 10, that's going to be good news for them. But we can't take our eyes off of anything here, because here comes Carollo and Kulaga again down into Descida del Lago, side by side, the 2 championship leaders. Buck Hamilton behind, ready to pounce, and he is going to pounce. Kulaga off the road, Kulaga out of the top 5, and Buck Hamilton up into the top 5 behind Carollo.
Yeah, decides to back out just a little bit into Ferradura though, and try and fight for another corner. Carollo will be happy that it's turned out that way. A car in between himself and his championship rival, Sully Sard, trying to make up some spots as well. It's now a proper 4-car fight here for what is now 4th position. Carollo back up into the position he qualified in, and it's still not over. He could stand to catch up to Felix Feliz in the final 3.5 minutes.
Very well could, and as things stand between him and Sortino, you can definitely say Sortino's been the faster of those 2 drivers this season. He's still 17 points back in the championship. He's separated by about 4 spots to Jeff Carollo. That's going to mean, likely with the pole position point, about a 12-point gap between them and the championship. With 3 races to go, that is very much make-upable, as I like to say, and I think Sortino's going to be holding that high as we go into the final 3 races of the season. Even with those 2 bad races he had in round 2 and round 3, that championship's still very much alive for Sortino.
Yeah, absolutely. Meanwhile, some side-by-side running on the way into turn 1. This is interesting here between RD Mercedes and the Ferrari of Alex Wright, holding the outside line through turn 2 and gets the inside for the 3rd corner here on the way onto the back stretch, and Peter Moller decides it's time to go for the move as well. Meanwhile, car 66 of Eric Kulaga fighting with Sully Sard coming up into Ferradura. There's battles everywhere you look.
All right, Andrew Trickett gets a little bit wide. He was thinking about pouncing on this battle, wasn't able to. But these have been the most dangerous group of drivers all race long. Not necessarily that they've been running into each other, but they've just been battling. Peter Muller in the background is around. You just saw a little white speck all the way in the background. He's looped it around, coming up over the hill. He drops into the Interlagos Canyon, just trying to find where the track goes. Wow. But add him to the list of drivers who have had trouble with the rear end of that Porsche. He's going to be falling out of the top 20, and he may have gotten a little bit of assistance as we look back to RD Mercedes.
Ooh,
yeah, that's a lot of bit of assistance.
Yep, quite a bit of assistance, and it's a shame for Moller, happening with only 2 odd minutes to go in this race. That is such a shame there. He was running so well, and now, unfortunately, down into 20th spot. 1 minute and a half to go. Ross Sortino through Descida de Lago at the moment, so I get the feeling it's going to be final lap next time by.
Yes, I think that's what iRacing is telling us. We'll get the white flag when Ross Sortino crosses the line. So if you want to make these moves, if you want to get yourself up into the top 5, if you want to get by Eric Kulaga, you better make a move happen now. And that's Andrew Trickett going for it on Kulaga down the hill. Wasn't quite close enough to go for a real dive, but he certainly spooked Kulaga out of the way. Kulaga able to recover, though, down the hill, able to hold on for just the moment. We look at the rear bumper. We go on Joker cam from the back of Eric Kulaga. And we'll see, can Trickett peek it to the inside? Can John Jones do anything? Trickett is throwing everything he has, but that rear bumper of that BMW is just too wide. And I have to say, I've never seen this camera before. We've got about 30 extra frames here. This is incredible.
Yeah, pretty fantastic. Lovely smooth here. And we'll see that. Oh, okay, John Jones. He goes for a spin there coming out of the corner, and it looks like he's contacted the front end of the Armco. The front bumper is gone.
That is tragic for John Jones. Finally back in the top 10, having his best race of the season. But they're kicking it off for P3 up ahead. From tragedy to John Jones to exuberance for Jeff Carollo. He's going to be up into the top 3, but only by a couple of inches down the front straight as him and Felix Feliz battle into turn 1 at the bottom of your screen. Carollo's going to be clear. There's what happened to John Jones, just a typical spin through Bico de Pato. Heartbreaking for him after his best race of the season. But we are on the final lap now, and if Felix Feliz wants to get this spot back, he's got one more chance on the back straight here to go for a dive, but he's a little bit too far back to go for it this time.
Yeah, final lap, and I think Jeff Carollo might just have the gap that he needs. Meanwhile, it's not over here between Trickett and Kulaga. Look at that. That was a beautiful over-under move from Kulaga to keep the position.
These guys, they refuse to give up. They refuse to stop. Right on board with the beauty cam one more time. Trickett still trying to switch it back. He's trying to trick Kulaga into making a mistake. He's been unable to do it, though. He looks to the inside. He looks to the outside now. That's going to be hard to do through there. Does it give him the inside into Pinarino for the final time? It doesn't. Kulaga has made that the widest BMW bumper in the world, and he has been very much gifted by the fact that that car is so wide. But we've got to look up front because Ross Sortino has been totally anonymous today. We haven't said his name very many times, but he's going to win for the 3rd time this season and take a whole chunk of points out of that championship gap to Jeff Carollo. Ross Sortino wins once again. Steven Martinez as well has gone around, but you saw it at the bottom of your screen. Andrew Trickett has been dumped around by Kulaga. Kulaga is one of the championship protagonists, and he may lose 2 more spots here coming to the line. Waldo Walden looking for a way by. Tyler Graff looking for a way by. It's going to be a 3-wide photo finish for 7th, and it's going to go to Tyler Graff, I think, by 33 thousandths of a second. Kulaga loses 1 extra spot and loses 1 extra point critically in the championship.
Yeah, that could definitely work against him in the last few rounds of the season as the rest of the field comes across the line. Great finish there between those three cars. I've got to say, though, there's quite a few drivers in this field who would have been hoping for more from tonight. There is the front bumperless car of Luis Grullon managing to come across the line in 20th spot ahead of Jeffries and Keane.
Absolute chaos tonight. John Jones across the line. He was up in the top 10. He's going to be absolutely heartbroken, especially with that finish. But everybody has crossed the line. Now we get the chance to calm down a little bit and look at the race results. Ross Sortino wins for the third time this season, putting himself very much back in championship contention. Steven Martinez, I only got to mention him for about half a second. I mentioned Ross Sortino was anonymous. Martinez was very anonymous, but in a very good way. He puts in his best performance of the season, ahead of continuing championship leader Jeff Carollo. Felix Feliz and Buck Hamilton rounded out the top 5. Sully Saad, P6. Tyler Graff, the hero of the final lap, gets P7 in a photo finish ahead of Eric Kulaga, ahead of Waldo Walden. And poor old Dale Peterson, not poor at all, up into the top 10 after picking up some spots at the end there. Kulaga, Wright, Rhines, Mercedes, and Feliz bring us down to P15. Andrew Trickett with a spin on the last lap falls to P16 ahead of Matthew Saint-Aubin. Joachim Backer, Peter Muller, and Luis Grullon all had assorted amounts of trouble. They were far lower than they would have liked. Robert Jeffries, Jared Keane, poor old John Jones, and David Morse round out the lead lap cars. Kevin Berquist's race was essentially over before it even started. Good on him for bringing it to the finish, though. And then we start to get into the used car lot of drivers who had heavy damage. It's a very damaged Ferrari of Ian Cabana and Douglas Corey. Michael Fowler, Luke Davis, and Colin McKenzie did not make it to the finish of the race. But we've got all 3 of our top 3 drivers for once to get ready for interviews with. And first and foremost, for the third time this season, we've got to talk to Ross Sortino. We didn't see you much today. It was pretty dominant, but how was that for you?
I think I'm okay with that. I mean, the objective for today was just to stay ahead of the championship leader and just keep chipping away at the points. So I'm happy I was able to do that. I just wanted to kind of stay in front the first couple laps, and then I just got into a rhythm and was taking a few tenths out each lap. And yeah, it was a good race for me today.
It's gonna be almost impossible to calculate the championship points before the results officially go up, but I'd say it'll be about 12 or 13 points between you and the championship leader after today. With 3 rounds to go, do you think you're going to be able to make that up and keep fighting for this championship?
I mean, all I can do is just keep showing up and giving my best. I think all the guys up top are racing hard and everybody's fast, so could go any way, but I'm giving it 100% every time, so I hope to keep chipping away.
Well, Ross, 3 wins this season. That's a big number. I'm sure you're happy with that, and we'll see you at the new track at Lebanon next week to see if you can go for number 4.
That's going to be a fun one. Thanks, guys.
Ross Sortino, P1 for the 3rd time this season. We've got P2, though, talking to him for the first time this season. We welcome Steve Martinez into the booth, and he talks to Reese Gardner.
He does indeed. Congratulations on your first second-place finish of the season, Stephen. Certainly a big haul of points considering you're down in 16th in the championship, so you must be happy with this result tonight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every race this year I've gotten hit on lap 1, had bad qualifying. Today was the perfect storm. I had to drive with a dirty suit after turn 4, lap 1, but I made it through with no incidents and just ran my pace.
Yeah, just describe that for a second, because Douglas Curry was ahead of you coming into Descida del Lago, and it must have been stressful realizing what was going on and taking that avoiding action.
Yeah, it looked like he hit the inside wall, and when I came around the corner, he was already like backing up, and it just seemed like I couldn't go further to the right without getting an off track, and then I somehow just made it through there by the skin of my teeth. But yeah, my heart rate was way up there for most of the race after that.
And just give us an insight into the conditions here tonight. Very heavy fog. Visibility was a bit down. How did the car drive compared to clearer conditions?
Slick. I mean, it was like ice, so you had to really be slower earlier in order to get it to kind of stick and not just melt the tires up, and just be patient with it on the throttle, patient with it on turn in. It was different. Thank God we had coaching, so it helped us a lot.
Well, your patience was rewarded, Steve.
Yeah.
Congratulations once again on your second place finish, and hopefully your luck has turned around here at the end of the season and we get a chance to talk to you at Lebanon next week.
I've never even seen that track, so yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. So I will, we'll see.
We'll see indeed. Congratulations once again to Steve Martinez, second place on track here at Interlagos, and looks to me like one final driver here on the podium. Joey, Jeff Carollo's with you.
Indeed he is. Jeff, it's good to talk to you for the second week in a row. A couple spots back from where you would have liked, but critically, you're still going to be in the lead of the championship with 3 rounds to go. How are you feeling, especially coming into the wild card round at Lebanon next week?
I'm not feeling too bad, but I'm not feeling saying it's 100% locked in, because it's never 100% locked in. Today showed a lot that Artie and Gruon are here to fight with gloves off, and we were duking it out. No holds barred. But it ended up being a good race. Silly mistake with my teammate Eric Kulaga. He was trying to let me by because I had a solid pace on him, and he dropped back. But staying confident as best I can.
Well, Jeff, congrats on yet another podium. It's good to talk to you again. We'll see you next week after whatever goes on in the mysteries of Lebanon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Jeff Carollo coming home at the end of the podium here. 3 very happy drivers there for many different reasons. Steven Martinez finally getting that good luck that he's deserved all season long. Carollo holding on to the championship lead, and Sortino tying Luis Scrullon for the most wins of anybody this season. But don't fret, that's not the end of racing today. That's GT3 fixed in the books, but it's almost time for some more GT3 Sprint racing from where else but the very same track, Interlagos. We're not going to go anywhere, you're not going to go anywhere, and it's going to be time for some GT3 Sprint racing. We don't have to look at the schedule for too long. It's identical to the GT3 fixed schedule, but it's going to get interesting. That's actually last season's schedule, so pay no mind to that as we take a look at the drivers' standings for GT3 Sprint. This is correct. Andrew Caron is in the championship lead over Vincent Trepanier, over Guillaume Levique, over Charles-Etienne Boucher. If you're curious, why are they all French-Canadian? Why are there all French-Canadian names up in the top of the top 4? That's because they're all teammates. They're all Lease Esports drivers of various flavors. And Andrew Caron has had more wins than any of them. 3 wins, including last week. Vincent Trepanier, last season's champion in this series, only 13 points behind him, though. Guillaume Levique, only 14 points behind him. It's going to get very, very spicy at the top of the table. Don't count out the likes of Martin Crisp, Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil, Daniel Ferguson as well. Lots of drivers still thinking about that championship with 4 rounds to go. It gets even spicier, though, Reese, in the team's championship, because there's not many points separating Lease and SimCity Racing. It's 2 Lease teams versus 1 SimCity Racing team, and it's basically shuffled around all season long. It's been totally unpredictable for the first 6 rounds, and I have a feeling it's going to be unpredictable until the very last race.
Yeah, I have the same feeling too. It's been awesome seeing the form from Lease Esports this season. Still holding on to that 1-2 in the team's championship, but you never know. SimCity Racing could certainly come back at them here if the conditions are the same in Sprint as they were in Fixed. I think we're on for a very chaotic race.
Notice the CRT as well. They're one of the only teams that has teams in this series and in the Fixed series, so they're spreading their net wide. P5 right now in the Sprint series, things are looking good for them. The Purple People Eaters as well. It is Halloween, so they're going to be looking for potentially their best race of the season, because it is only thematic for the one-eyed, one-horned flying Purple People Eaters to do pretty well on Halloween. And as we say that, qualifying is currently underway. We'll be able to take a look at where those Purple People Eaters are on track right now. They're somewhere in this absolute cluster of cars. Still waiting for all the times to flow in here, but just this one shot shows us, Reese, that just as it was in the Fixed series, it's going to be very hard to find track position here and find clean air for a qualifying run.
Yeah, Interlagos is actually pretty short for a Formula 1 track. 4.3 Ks long. You can do the Freedom Units conversion yourself. The actual lap time is incredibly short. Only 1.5 minutes in a GT3 car, and there's not much space between the corners to make space. And I think crucially, we can actually see how much space is being given. The fog has lifted here for the Sprint series. We're still pretty early in the morning. That's just gone past 5:30 a.m. virtual standard time, but no fog. Nice, clear conditions.
Good to see. We can see the surroundings of Sao Paulo. Some beautiful, some not, but either way, it's good to see everything around the track. Right now, it's Manuel Troncoso, actually, at the top of the timesheets. That's a name we haven't seen since the start of the season. He really kicked things off with a reign of terror, and then has understandably had other things to do. He's a very busy guy with Drago Esports, with many other commitments, but it's good to see him back in the field, and it's not good for the rest of the field to see that reign of terror back in action. 4/10 over the rest of the field right now is Manuel Troncoso, and everybody else has 7 more minutes to try and find that time, but 4/10, that's a big gap to have to make up.
Yeah, there's quite a big gap, especially at a track like Interlagos with so many corners, so many braking and traction zones throughout this circuit that are crucial to the lap time. We'll have to wait and see how things go here. There's obviously a lot of rubber on the racetrack. You want to try and stay on the racing line, though. Don't get too inventive with your turn-ins and exit points. Obviously, it's all about keeping the momentum up, and a little bit too close running for qualifying at this stage between the Mercedes and the Porsche coming into the final corner. It looks like the Merc jumping out of the way there.
It's one of the Lease and Pure Sims Mercedes. I think that was Guillaume Levique, and that was Dalton Zavadil trying to get through. Just understandable that you're running out of track position here at Interlagos. I didn't translate those 4.1 kilometers to miles. I probably should have done that in the meantime. I think it's about it's got to be about like 2.9 miles, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm going to check this right now. I'm going to check the real number. 4.3 kilometers, 2.7 miles. That's actually, that was not bad. I did okay.
Not too far off indeed.
It's the best math I've ever done.
Yeah.
But no more math required. There are the current qualifying standings. Manuel Troncoso, the only driver down into the 130s so far. Everybody else is fighting for scraps in the 131s. When Manuel Troncoso first came into the PRL in the GT4 series a couple seasons ago, it was only a partial season. He ran about 3 or 4 races. We called it the Reign of Terror because he just showed up and won every single one of them. It was totally untouchable. And in the few races he's done in GT3 this season, it's been exactly the same. He has just been untouchable. He hasn't been able to fight for the championship because he's been part-time, but in every race that we've seen him, he's been a very, very tough customer. We'll see if Trepanier or Olivier or Thierio or anybody has anything for him this time, or even our old buddy Kwok Nin, who we see right now in the Rexy livery, all dressed up for Halloween, and all dressed up in VR. As he crests over Yun Sao, maybe steals a little bit of draft from his teammate Frost Nasser up ahead. He's going to try and hop himself up the order a little bit because he's a little bit lower than he would like.
Yep, car 86 down in 25th position at the moment. Got a little bit of activity ahead of him here. Just crossing the line to start another hot lap in the slipstream of Firas Nasser up ahead of him in the BMW, and it's amazing seeing the work that these drivers are doing and the force going through his wheel as well. It looks like he's running the Fanatic direct drive base there, and VR at the moment. So oh, hello, there
Arnaud
we go.
Genet.
Someone's getting spooky.
It's Arnaud Genet. He's gone full Halloween mode. He's the Pumpkin Man. But how has he done those glasses? That's sorcery.
That is indeed sorcery. Will be interesting to see the shifting of position of those glasses as time goes on. They seem to get a little bit smaller as he goes through the left-hand turns, which is unfortunate because Interlagos is an anti-clockwise circuit, so it's mostly left-hand turns. Regardless, at least through the hairpins, we're able to see those deal with it glasses to the best of their ability. Guillaume Levesque, meanwhile, in car 888 down in 11th spot at the moment, also joining us on the Zoom feed, coming through to Cedar del Lago now, hard on the focus here for his next hot lap.
It's always good to see our old buddy Mini Guy on camera, but he's not really mini. We're so close to his face. He's always got the camera so zoomed in that we're seeing Mega Guy every week. So we have to change his nickname. But he's not the only one of these Lease Esports drivers who's given us a zoom. We've got, I'm so scared! It's Vincent Trepanier! Oh wait, that's not a costume, that's just his face. But he's he's been doing a great job as of late. He started the season a little bit off pace. He kind of knew the challenge was coming this season of all the best guys coming back into the series to fight with him. But he won a race totally legitimately at Jerez a couple of weeks ago, and he's up in the top 2. He's doing a great job here, and his championship hopes are definitely not over.
Yeah, only 13 points behind Andrew Carroll in the lead of the championship at the moment, and seems like he's just backing off a little bit here on this lap. 131.16 is his quickest time so far. Meanwhile, someone's looking very
Hell on Hell Fonseca. That's what we like to see.
Love it. Fantastic stuff.
There's a Spotify QR code up in the top right of that. I want to know what that is. It's cut off. It's cut off too much for me to scan, but I'm very curious as to what that is. Apparently, it's, our producer tells us it's Halloween by Misfits. I can't say I've ever heard that enough. I guess I'm not punk enough.
And the text on the left-hand side there says "too punk to practice." I do like the aesthetic that he's going for with this one.
Miguel, I don't want to see you change this aesthetic. I want to see that every single week. There's no luck for him there. Throws it off the road at Decida Delago. You can see him angry. He's being enveloped by punk rage. That's what's happening to Miguel Angel Fonseca, and I'm sure we'll see him. We'll see him many more times. There's only a minute 15 left in qualifying. Things haven't shifted very much. Dominic Olivier, the only real big mover, and his big move was from a lowly third to a very high second. Vincent Trepannier's off the road. That's going to be the end of his qualifying session. Here's one of those CRT Ferraris. You're not getting deja vu from the Thick Series race. They've got a CRT Ferrari in the Sprint Series as well, and Fernando Jaquez in this open setup series, taking this Ferrari to some pretty high heights. Currently P7, one of his best runs of the season so far.
Oh, cloning is spooky too, isn't it?
I think so.
Well, Fernando, in any case, is certainly doing very well for himself. 7th spot at the moment, and wow, hello, that's a big improvement there for Nene Taveras, up to 4th spot in the dying moments of the session. But Fernando potentially getting a little bit of slipstream off the Porsche ahead of him of Mark Anthony Hinkson. Is this going to work out for him? 131.7 was his fastest lap, and he just misses out by a 10th.
And these are different qualifying runs in the Fixed Series. In the Fixed Series, you could go around for one more lap after that because you'd still be expending the fuel. You could get a little bit more time. In this series, you're really set up to go for one lap runs and then come back and put more fuel in the tank. But checkered flag is out. Laps will count now. You just saw our old buddy Boucle d'Or, Charles-Etienne Boucher, up into P10. The two Precision Racing Esports Ferraris are looking for their last bits of speed here. Dominic Olivier, the lead car, Jeremy Gonsalves behind. Can he steal a little bit of draft to potentially get himself up into the top 10? See what he can do here.
Yeah, let's see indeed.
Or we'll see another Ferrari of, is this Ted Lowendick, the lead Purple People Eaters Ferrari? There he is. It's good.
Oh, no.
There we go. It's good to see. He's not wearing his glasses, so I hope he can actually see. But Martin Crisp up into P4, great run for him. We'll look more at Ted Lowendick's background. We'll definitely talk to him during the race because we do get the opportunity to talk to Ted Lowendick and his teammate Nick McLaughlin during the race. It'll be good to hear their perspectives. And I've got a little bit of lore behind that costume. We'll see if we can break some of that out of him. There was no improvement from Jeremy Gonsalves there, by the way, and there's going to be no improvement for Ted Lowendick as he pulls down pit lane. Clearly no speed in there.
And with looks like no other cars out on track at the moment, it seems to me that the session is over. So excellent performance by Manuel Troncoso, and Olivier improving to second there in the last dying moments of the session. I think that was a really awesome qualifying session, Joey. I can't wait to see what the race holds.
Yeah, let's see, there's some trouble there, but Manuel Troncoso, no trouble for him. Now that qualifying is finally officially done, he is going to start from pole yet again alongside Dominic Olivier, one of Dominic's best qualifyings of the season. Vincent Trepanier, last season's champion, he starts on the second row alongside his old sparring partner Martin Crisp, and Nene Taveras, P5, his best qualifying of the season, his best qualifying maybe ever in the PRL. He starts alongside his fellow Ferrari, Simon Thiriot. Then down in P7, Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil, a winner for the first time at Laguna Seca a couple races to go. He starts alongside championship leader Andrew Carone, far lower than he would have liked. Fernando Jaquez, great run for him as well, alongside Boucle d'Or, Charles-Etienne Boucher. Josiah Farrow, yet another Lease Esports driver alongside Jeremy Gonsalves. And then unlucky 13th, how spooky, it's Guillaume Levesque. driver with so many wins in the PRL. He's not used to starting this far back. He's going to start alongside Ryan Pucktell. Kevin Simpson starts 15th, and JP Alfonso, he actually took a week off to get some extra practice. He wanted to get more comfortable in this series, and it has come very good for him. He's going to start in the middle of the field ahead of Ted Lowendick and Caven Norris. It's a purple pair on row 9 ahead of another purple car. It's the Bassmaster, Ethan Bass, and his Ferrari, starting alongside Juan Malagan. David Mendonça was watching on in the fixed race in the YouTube chat. He starts alongside two-time fixed series champion Michael Terrafino. Then it's lead driver Stuart Arnaud-Genet back on the track. He starts alongside a new driver, Keith Maines, who's just recently joined this series. Nick McLaughlin, the second of the Purple People Eaters, starts a few rows back from his teammate alongside Ray Dominguez. Kwok Nin, Miguel Angel Fonseca, Patrick Bachelard, and Tyler Campbell round out the top 30, but the hits keep on coming. It's a big field. Diego Aire alongside Mark Anthony Hinkson, Justin Delano, Marc-Andre Desjardins, and Faraz Nasser round out a 35-car field. There's also Lance Loomis, but we're not sure if he's actually going to make it to the grid. Didn't get a qualifying lap time in, and we'll see what happens there. But it's going to be a short pace lap again here, Reese. Not much time to get those tires warm. Not as much smog and fog and humidity in the air either. It's going to be a little bit less sticky, but we're going to go racing here in a matter of moments.
Yeah, that we are. 81% humidity, as you mentioned, and 73 Fahrenheit track temperature. Still very cool out there. It does mean that things are going to be a little slick when drivers get started, but once the tires come up to temperature, there should be a lot of grip available in those cool track temperatures. It was a fun race in the fixed series, but I think with the ability to work on car setups and adjust fuel loads, etc., in these cars, obviously you still have to take a pit stop for fuel, but I think we're going to be seeing things a lot closer here tonight. And I mean, it says it all, really. We've got a Mercedes on pole. Mercedes cars were almost nowhere in the fixed series.
And it's interesting that a short pace lap at Interlagos is still basically a full pace lap. It only cuts out about 5 corners. But it's going to be an interesting dynamic here because Manuel Troncoso, sort of an unfamiliar driver up front because he's only been in 2 races this season, but in both of them he was fighting for the win. He's back to try and continue his reign of terror. He's got Dominic Olivier, Vincent Trepanier, Martin Crisp behind him, though. Olivier and Crisp have not won yet this season. Nane Tavares in P5 has not won this season. Simon Theriault in P6 hasn't won this season. How can all of those guys break down the reign of terror, break down that 9,000 iRating driver in the lead, and maybe beat him against all the odds?
This is the big question as they make their way through Junção for the last time before they go racing. Nane Tavares weaving a little bit, as does the Porsche behind him of Dalton Zavadil. Oh man, they're trying to get as much heat into those tires as they can before things get started.
And those last little bits of tire warming in. It's the second half of our Halloween doubleheader here. Things got very spooky indeed. Things got even haunted in the fixed series race with the amount of collisions, with the amount of drama. We're about to see even more of that here. We've got 40 minutes on the clock here at Interlagos, and we're almost ready to go racing. The iRacing Porsche pace car pulls down pit lane, and Manuel Troncoso takes control of the field. Is the reign of terror about to continue? Either way, we're going racing at Interlagos. They fan out 5 wide almost in the background as it's a very late start. How are we going to get all these cars filed into turn 1? They're 3 wide. It's like the Indy 500 into turn 1. 3 wide all the way down the Senna S, still trying to resolve things. And there it goes. Vincent Trepanier loops it around. One of the Lease and Pure Sims cars is around. I think that's Charles-Etienne Boucher. They weren't going to be able to go 3 wide through the Senna S, and understandably, lots of drama. But only 2 cars spin off. Other than that, it's clean going. But as they file down the Descida del Lago for the first time, they're still side by side, about 10 rows deep, and there goes one of the CRT cars around. Now it's starting to kick off, and now we've got big drama in the middle of the field.
Yeah, that we have. Everyone compressed. That second Lease Esports car that spun around was Andrew Caron, the championship leader. So that is a huge blow to Andrew Caron's potential championship victory there. He'll have to get on the recovery very shortly, but the racing continues here in the middle of the field. That's Caven Norris, who's battling hard with Guillaume Levesque there into Bico de Pato, and Guillaume manages to get the position back. But for how long. Ethan Bass, meanwhile, making his way up. He is up 5 places on the opening lap, 18th to 14th. Meanwhile, most positions gained so far, about 8 positions, Caven Norris and Tyler Campbell.
Well, both of those drivers who spun, Vincent Trepanier and Andrew Caron, 1 and 2 in the championship. Guillaume Levique, suddenly, after having the worst qualifying of his season, he's in the best shot of anybody in terms of positions. Here is Vincent Trepanier. He crosses the line here. It's going to be P20 for him. He has half of the field to pass right now as he sends a dive on David Mendonça into turn 1. That was a late lunge, and it's not going to work for him. Not able to be late enough in the brakes. Mendonça's going to hang on to that one. Vincent Trepanier is so much lower in the field than he would like right now. His championship rival in Guillaume Levique is 12 spots ahead, and he's only about 17 points back in the championship. This could be disastrous for Vincent Trepanier if he doesn't get this charge forward going soon.
Yeah, has to go around the outside and Desida Delago around Tyler Campbell. There was almost a chance for Diego Ere to make his way through as a result of that side-by-side, but Trepanier now has the inside for Ferradura, manages to make up 1 position, hopefully for him. That is the first of many.
They still haven't resolved everything. They're still side by side deep in the field. These battles have continued for about 3 minutes now. Up at the top of the field, though, this has been a little bit of separation. When third place spins, it kind of opens things up a little bit, and Manuel Troncoso is in a very comfortable spot right now. He's got Dominic Olivier right behind. There's a spin for David Mendonça in the middle of the field. I mentioned that's where there was lots of drama, and it's kicked off there again. But Jeremy Gonsalves in 37th or something. He's struggling. But as I was saying, Manuel Troncoso and Dominic Olivier, these are drivers with, I think, 2 different strategies. Olivier is pushing. He set the fastest lap of the race. He's in the draft of Troncoso. You have to imagine Troncoso's trying to control the pace up front, though. And this is somewhat artificially close.
Yeah, considering the gap between them in qualifying, I'd imagine that Troncoso, if he fully unleashed his pace, would be streaking away from everybody at the moment. Oh, lordy, that's 3 wide. Didn't work out.
That is absolute calamity. Miguel Angel Fonseca, Jeremy Gonsalves. There's bumpers everywhere. Mark Anthony Hinkson has to go for some rallycross. Man, Miguel Angel Fonseca was too punk for practice, and he's gonna be very punked out right now, I think, after getting taken out. We'll get a replay of that when we can. But look, Vincent Trepanier is going to be the first replay we get to see. We've got the replay machine spooled up. This is that start. They were 3 wide, about 9 rows deep. It looked like the Indy 500, and Vincent Trepanier was the first victim. A little bit of a tap on the wall through turn 2.
Yeah, and on the other side of the track there, Andrew Caron, unfortunately spinning off on the opposite side. What happened to him? He got on the brakes there, I think, just to check up for the incident that was happening right next to him, and unfortunately that lost the rear end of the Mercedes.
As I said, those are the top 2 in the championship, as they have both basically given themselves a much more difficult job here in trying to keep their championship hopes alive. The drop weeks have already been taken into consideration, and I think both of them have used somewhat bad weeks already. Vincent Trepanier hasn't used an especially bad week, but Vincent Trepanier, or Guillaume Levique rather, has had a DNS. Here's what happened to Juan Malagan. He was the driver who got turned around into Desida Delago on lap 1. There was 1 driver, 2 drivers, 3 drivers who hit him. Hinkson spun as well. Caven Norris gets a bite out of him as well, I think, or Marc-Andre Desjardins rather. It looked far more innocent than it did on lap 1, but there were actually quite a few drivers who are going to be hurting from that.
Yeah, plenty of drivers who are way down at the moment. We're looking at the same wreck from 5 cars back on this one. Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Just got loose, tagged the Porsche, and spun him around. That's very unfortunate, but hey, GT3 gonna GT3, and at Interlagos, it's almost a certainty that there's gonna be big incidents like that.
Manny Tavares still in the best race of his PRL career so far. As I say that, he's going to lose a spot to Tirio. He's going to lose a spot to Jaquez as well. I think he's serving a slowdown right now.
Yeah.
I don't know where he could have accumulated that. Maybe from cutting Bico de Pato too tight, but it's bizarre to get a slowdown in Interlagos. He's pulled it off somehow.
Yeah, I do know that if you cut the inside of the corners too much, you can get a slowdown, and it's very tempting to be able to do that. The track limits actually allow you to use the entirety of the curb in that hairpin section. So it could be easy to overstep the mark a little bit. Oh, I've just noticed something.
Olivier.
Dominic Olivier. Yeah, I was looking at him. He disappeared for a couple of moments. He is back.
Okay. He scares us. He's a Halloween kind of guy. Every single week he scares us with those internet issues, and eventually he always pops back. But one of these days he's not going to pop back in. So I hope he can resolve those internet issues. I know he's down in Florida, but hopefully we can hook him up with something there. We might need to do something that isn't just two cans strung together, giving himself an internet connection. Here's that battle in the middle of the field that we saw a little bit earlier. It's a damaged car of Ted Lowendick and two fresh cars of Kwok Nin and Rapid Ray Dominguez. Both of them maybe pulling away from Ted now that he's got a little bit of a spank from that Juan Malagon spin, and Kwok and Ray can have their own little battle.
Yeah, indeed. BMW versus Porsche. Another one of those legendary brand matchups, and you can see how much Nin is pushing into the braking zones here. Just not quite able to get the run on the BMW that he needs. Once again, there's so many slow corners in this section of the track, so many very crucial traction zones that you have to focus on your exits if you want to make a pass.
It's making me think of McDonald's here, because we got Ray Kwok on the track doing battle.
Oh no.
That's there's a reference for all you people.
That's a deep cut.
All you fast food fans out there in the chat, I hope you like that one. But Kwok Nin in the draft of Ray Dominguez coming down the front straight here. Is he going to think about going for a move? He's definitely going to think about it, but he's not going to actually go through with it. He's not going to let the intrusive thoughts win, and he's going to slot back in line and wait for a little bit better of an opportunity as we ride on board.
Looked like a good exit out of turn 2, but I don't know if he can take advantage of it down the cover, down the back straight down to the Interlagos, too far back to make a move under brakes. He has to keep an eye out for Ted Lowendick behind him as well. It's always difficult being the middle car in a 3-car battle. Just behind them, meanwhile, this is a nice pack here. Andrew Caron is making up some time here. Vincent Trepanier, meanwhile, it seems that car is missing something.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Reese. Oh God, there it is. Yep, he's struggling a little bit more than his teammate is, but both of these guys have to make progress no matter what. Whether you've got a damaged front end or whether you're mostly clean like Andrew Caron, both of these guys need every point they can get in the championship if they want to keep their fights alive. And this is going to be a struggle of a day for Vincent Trepanier. If we can see his face, it'll probably look exactly the same, but inside he's thinking, this is very frustrating. I'm driving half a Porsche for 30 more minutes.
Yeah, that's a real shame for him. Don't forget, could potentially get that fixed, but he might lose some time on the pit cycle if he does that, and you can see just how much it's costing him in a straight line. Justin Delano, there he goes, into the lane, going to get that damage repaired.
That's an interesting move. It's an earlier stop than we ever see in this series, but he knows he can make it to the end. We saw drivers able to go until about 10 minutes to go in the fixed series. You get a little bit more fuel in this series with a longer race, so clearly Trepanier has realized that I can make it to the end of the race. I'm going to bring it down pit lane and get that damage fixed as early as possible. Rapid Ray Dominguez has actually lost out to Kwok Nin now. He may lose out to Ted Lowendick at the same time, but as they fall down the hill at the end of the Interlagos, he is going to be able to slot back in line between Kwok and Ted. It's not going to be very comfortable, though, because those are two drivers who, one of whom he wants to pass back, one of whom wants to pass him, and he's got a big old scary mouth on him that's going to make things even worse.
Yes, make sure that the rear end does not get bit. This is a very entertaining battle. Looks like Trepanier has made his way out of the pits. He does have a front bumper again on the Porsche, but it seems like the hood is a little bit flappy still. So hopefully that's enough for Trepanier to get his pace back and try and make up some places further on into the race. But we keep our eyes on this battle. It's a very entertaining, close one at this point. And I mean, there's battles pretty much everywhere you look in this race at the moment. Simon Theriault, a 3-car battle ahead of Guillaume Levesque, who's managed to get the move done on Dalton Zavadil.
Great move from Guillaume Levesque. He's just trying to run forward after his 2 championship rivals ran into trouble early. If Guillaume can even just finish in the top 5, he's going to be potentially in conversation for the championship lead after this week. He's still looking forward. That's a big move on Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil. He's got more big moves to make as they're side by side a little bit further back. Caven Norris and JP Alfonso up into the top 11. This is a triumphant race for Alfonso. Was very public with the PRL drivers. He was telling people, you know, I've caused some incidents this season. I'm going to take a week off. I'm going to do a ton of practice. I'm going to come back in my best racing shape possible. And he's done exactly that. He's 1 spot out of the top 10. This is incredible for JP.
Absolutely is. And driving beautifully at the moment as well. He is looking very clean on the way into the corners, and he is the one being hunted right now. Caven Norris almost going for a dive there at Bico de Pato, but that has cost him some momentum, and that will give JP Alfonso a little bit of breathing room coming into Jules-Sal and onto the start-finish stretch. JP still has some time to make up versus Josiah Farrow up ahead of him. Looks like a gap of about 1.5 seconds between them, but I would say, considering Alfonso's past form and the context that you've given, Joey, this is a great position for him to be in.
Good news for fans of Lance Loomis, by the way. He did actually make it to the grid. He is currently out there. He's down 30th after not making it to the grid. So it's good to see him after he missed the entirety of qualifying. I think likely didn't get a qualifying lap in, or either didn't get a qualifying lap in or just didn't make it to the session. He has made it to the grid, and he's just trying to make up as much as possible. Simon Theriault in that Ferrari. He's having one of his best races of the season. He's actually the lead Lease Esports driver, which has been a rare opportunity this season. He's got 2 very hungry CRT cars behind him, though, and Jaquez and Tavares. They're looking forward. They know that they're 5th in the team's championship right now at CRT. They've got to take some points out of Lease, out of SimCity Racing if they want to have any hope of moving forward. And they're just trying to pressure Theriault into a mistake.
Yeah, at the moment, it looks like they're pressuring each other a little bit more than they're pressuring Theriault. They're running very close together. They don't want to get in each other's way too much. This battle for 3rd is certainly firing off. Martin Crisp, 132.3 on the last lap, 132.28 for Theriault, and roughly the same for Jaquez and Tavares behind. They need to keep an eye out for Guillaume Levesque, Dalton Zavadil, and Charles-Etienne Boucher behind them. This is going to turn into potentially a huge train for the last spot on the podium, and that's very deep there for Fernando Jaquez.
Very deep. Is his teammate going to be able to repay the favor? He's got the run. Tavares 2nd in line in that 2nd CRT Ferrari. Will there be some team orders in the CRT camp? Are they going to be discussing right now on their in their communication of choice? Are you going to let me through? Yes, they are. Tavares is through on Jaquez very easily down the hill. Jaquez knows he was the 2nd of the 2 drivers in qualifying, was the 2nd of the 2 drivers in the race until Tavares had a little bit of a bobble, and now he's back up into the top 5. Back up into having his best race in the PRL. Rapid Ray Dominguez and Ted Lowendick, they've not given up this battle, and Ted's going to peek to the inside down the hill. There's not going to be a nose open for that Ferrari, and there he is in the Gru costume. I saw him, he posted on Instagram, he was with his team at work. He got everybody to dress up as minions. He was Gru. It's probably suable. DreamWorks might get on this, but before that happens, we'll enjoy it.
Yeah, certainly will, and you know, it's all in good fun anyway. This is something that I really enjoy seeing around Halloween time, seeing what everyone does in terms of their apparel. He is certainly right on the back of Ray Dominguez as he was last time we caught up with him. But the exit of Jules-Sal seems to be with the BMW for the time being.
Well, the good thing about this GT3 Sprint series is we have a few drivers who are actually willing to talk to us during the race, and while we do have a small amount of calm, let's talk to Ted while he's enduring through this battle. Well, first of all, is your name still Ted, or are you Gru today? Are you Gru?
You know, you can still call me Ted. It's a alter ego that I use during the day to make sure
Okay, that works. That works for us. You're battling with Rapid Ray here. He's been a very wide BMW. How hard has this been? How frustrating has this been?
it's really frustrating because I've had a couple really good runs on him, and he has had the better top end down the straights. So it's like can't do anything with it. Had this issue last week with Quack, who's just in front. So it's like a villain's worst nightmare. I've got two heavyweights in front of me that I can't beat.
So I saw you post this afternoon. You were slacking off at work. You were posting on Instagram with you and your
Whoa! I posted that after work.
Your evil team of scientists. You dressed them all up as your minions. How much convincing did they need to take this costume?
They asked me, actually. They were like, "Hey, if we dress up as minions, will you be Gru?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Of course, that's what you grew up to be. Can you do the Gru voice?
No, I tried. I did some research, listened to Steve Carell talk like him. I can't even do it.
Well, you tried your best. I mean, it's Halloween. It's spooky enough. You're going to get even more spooked at Lebanon next week. So enjoy it while it lasts, because you're going to get scared for real next week.
Awesome.
That's Ted Lowendick. I'm sure we'll talk to his teammate Nick as well. We'll let him get back to racing. But that's what we love about this GT3 Sprint series. We love doing that, and we love these battles that are still kicking off. Charles-Etienne Boucher and Dalton Zavadil, they've just been all over each other all race long. They've been switching spots. Boucher up ahead of Zavadil now, but who knows if it's going to stay like that for very long.
Yeah, who knows indeed. Remember that they've been trying to chase down the CRT pair of Tavares and Jaquez. It seems to me like the switch between those two Ferraris up ahead of them has worked out in Tavares' favor. Guillaume Levesque now splitting them. So what these guys have to focus on is just maximizing their pace. Obviously they're fighting for position, but maybe focus on getting closer to the cars in front first before you start fighting amongst yourselves. Otherwise, you'll just cost yourselves valuable time.
Charles-Etienne Boucher normally gives us his zoom perspective. He normally shows us his face, but last week he was a little slacker. He didn't show it off. This week he's not doing it as well. He normally has a nice message for us. Oh, we're actually hearing. Has he come into our good graces this week? Do we have his zoom? Are we finally going to be able to forgive him for his sins? Yes, there he is. Welcome back, Boucle d'Or. Welcome back to the Zoom gang. He's not going to bring it down to the pit lane this time, but I think he's leaning forward to get the weight transfer all the way to the front.
Yep, get all that weight onto the fronts for the braking zone. Make sure that you maximize traction in braking. And of course, yes, traction is usually a term used for acceleration, but it can work in a braking sense as well. It seems to me like he's looking reasonably comfortable.
Yeah.
Aside from that,
what's the costume supposed to be? He's got the sunglasses. He's got the black shirt. That could be anybody.
Boy band, member of the Backstreet Boys.
Maybe. I mean, he's got his old buddy Guillaume Levesque in a real costume up in the top left there, but I don't know what old Boucle d'Or is supposed to be. I wanted to see him in a Goldilocks costume, but that would have been too hard.
Yeah. We'll probably. Well, I mean, wigs are cheap, aren't they?
Yeah. Get 3 bears behind him, a bowl of oatmeal. You're in business.
Exactly. Make sure, well, 3 bowls of oatmeal. Make sure that one is too hot and one is too cold. One is just right. Meanwhile, it is just right on the inside for the 166 and Firas Nasser. Down in that's 29th position. That's Lance Loomis. My apologies. Got my numbers confused side by side with Tyler Campbell. Campbell's going to try up the inside here, coming into Pinerino. And it looks like he's going to be able to get it done. Yes, wide turn in. Momentum is with the Ferrari. He remains there.
Yeah, these guys have also just been all over each other. There's battles all throughout the field, whether it's for first or whether it's for 31st. Every single position is going to pay points here. This sort of duo in first, we haven't looked at it much because we don't really know if it's conducive to how fast either of these guys are. Manuel Troncoso started on pole, has led every single lap, but Olivier has been able to stick with him. He's been within about half a second for the entirety of this race. The question is, though, is Troncoso playing with him a little bit? Is he backing off the pace a little bit to save fuel? Or is Olivier actually able to save fuel and stick with him? We simply won't know for about 9 more minutes until that pit cycle comes around.
Well, the pit cycle has just come around for Tyler Campbell. He's come into the lane, and seems like he's the only driver going for a stop on this run. We had Mark Anthony Hinkson come in last lap, and looks to me like there might be a change for position between those two. Yes, indeed, Hinkson will move forward into 29th spot as Troncoso and Olivier continue to fight out here, obviously going long. And that's something that I usually see in races like this with a mandatory pit stop. If you're out in the lead, it's usually the better idea to go long initially and try and build your gap.
No stops up front. They're going to keep extending that for as long as possible. Just a couple seconds back is the Martin Crisp train, and this is just getting absolutely insane with Simon Theriault, Nene Tavares, Guillaume Levique, Fernando Jaquez, all just stuck behind Martin Crisp. And these may be the 5 drivers who think, or the 4 drivers who think, maybe we're the ones who are going to start thinking about that undercut, starting to think about getting out of traffic and going for some clean air. JP Alfonso and Ryan Pucktel outside of the top 10 have just gone for that. We have to imagine that some of these 4 guys are probably a little bit quicker than they sit right now and may have to start thinking strategy in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, we are past the halfway point, and that's around about the time where we see most drivers come in and split the race 50-50. Looks like Ryan Puchtel and JP Alfonso have taken their stops as well. That looks like it's a little bit deep from Simon Theriault, but manages to keep it out of the rear bumper of Crisp in his fellow Ferrari.
A little bit of grass clip there for Simon Theriault. He's certainly throwing everything at it. These are all drivers with very different PRL stories. You've got Guillaume Levique, one of the most successful drivers in PRL GT3 history. Has had a season many seasons ago where he won 8 out of 10 races. And then he's got Fernando Jaquez, who's never won a race. Nene Tavares, who's never won a race. Martin Crisp has won a race, but he didn't win it on track. It was just because Sean Campbell got disqualified in front of him. And Simon Theriault's one win comes from GT4. So it's a wealth of experience, but a very big gap in wins, and they've all met in the middle here at Interlagos. It's been a great equalizer.
Certainly has. What a fantastic battle this is between these 5 cars. They continue on without pitting. As things stand, it is the entirety of the top 21 at the moment. Actually, scratch that. Cognin has made his way into the lane from 15th spot. So that's going to destroy my point before I can even make it.
Darn. Halloween, we're destroying everything. We're getting spooked. We're losing our points as they happen. We're having battles all the way throughout the track. It's just the whole mess here. But still single file up over the top of the hill. I have to imagine the only way this is going to change is with a pit stop, because they're so similarly matched on pace. It's a place where it's difficult to pass at the best of times, and these are 5 drivers who are not known for making mistakes. So it's fun to look at a 5-car train like this. As right as I say, they're not going to make mistakes. There's your commentator's curse, and there's Nene Tavares up into 4th.
Yep, Simon Theriault running a little bit deep into Pico de Pato. That is 1 position lost. Could be 2 if Guillaume Levique decides to go for it, but I think he is going to wait. Now, do any of these drivers blink here? Martin Crisp has been given a great advantage thanks to that slight error in the trader position that resulted. It looks like none of them are going for the pit lane for the time being. Meanwhile, have a look at Guillaume here. He's going to try around the outside of turn 1, Joey, and that is certainly something that can be done, but just backs out of it. Tiny bit of contact from Jaquez behind. Meanwhile, Olivier has pitted from 2nd.
Dominic Olivier, the first driver to really blink in the top 10. He's gone for the early stop, and I don't know if it's going to work for him, because he's going to come out, I think, in traffic. Terrafino gets by him. Kevin Simpson comes out right behind him. So this is dangerous stuff here for him, for Olivier. He's actually come out right behind Kevin Simpson. Simpson does clear him. Can Olivier outbrake him coming down the hill? He can, but look right ahead of him. Terrafino's half a second ahead. Kevin Norris is right ahead of that. Olivier has not come out in clean air whatsoever.
Yeah, that could be disastrous for his pursuit of Manuel Troncoso at the midway point of this race. What I'd be interested to see is whether or not Troncoso responds right away or decides to go on a little longer and start to increase the pace. Actually make sure that the gap is even larger by the time he makes his pit stop. At the moment, Manuel has been running pretty consistently in the high 1 minute 31s, and he dipped into the 32s a couple of times. He does not respond. Let's see if he decides to move forward a little more and start running mid 31s to try and secure that gap.
This could be a big day for Manuel Troncoso. It is a shame that he's been busy with other things. He's been busy with his teammate Ricardo Rico, who he knows watching on in the chat with Drago Racing. They've had some bigger events to take part in, but we would have loved to see him put on a full championship challenge, and I have a feeling that if he did, he would probably be in a pretty big championship lead right now. So maybe it's for the best that he's only been on a part-time basis. Here is Dominic Olivier in absolute agony right now, stuck behind Michael Terrafino, his fellow Ferrari. He's losing time with every corner that he's stuck behind this car. Is he going to send a dive here, the end of the Red Aposta? He's going to think about it, but he's not going to be late enough on the brakes. Through the corner, he sees the bumper get bigger and bigger, and he only sees the lap time get bigger and bigger as well.
Yeah, well, he does get a good run out of Interlagos. Fires it up the inside at Ferradura. He is through. That wasn't fought by Terrafino, but still, it's infinitesimal amounts of time. We're talking not even tenths, hundredths of a second lost at a time. So, I don't know. It might have not been the greatest of decisions to pit as early as he did for Olivier.
Start regretting this. I think he's probably already doing that. We know him and his teammates usually sit in a voice channel together during the race, and I have a feeling he's probably going to be saying, "Guys, I don't know why I did that, because I'm not very happy right now, stuck behind Kevin Norris." Troncoso's going to go around for another lap, maybe even another lap after that, maybe even another lap after that. He is just sitting pretty right now, and the train right behind is only falling back further. Crisp now 7.5 seconds off Troncoso. Still ahead of all of those drivers behind him. Kevin Norris is going to come down pit lane. That's going to stop Dominic Olivier's pain for just a moment, but he definitely lost a ton of time there. Even as he sets the fastest lap, he still lost a good amount of time stuck behind Terrafino as he came out of the pits.
Yeah, only making up a tenth, not even that, on Manuel Troncoso, whose last lap was 131.799, and that pretty much matches his fastest lap from before, and is probably down to the fourth decimal place faster. Meanwhile, we see Delano and Bachelard making their stops. It looks like that's worked out well for Delano. He's going to come out near Jeremy Gonçalves and Vincent Trepanier. We keep our eye on the leader, meanwhile, to see if he decides to respond here with 11 minutes to go in the race. It's 3/4 done or near enough. Should just be a short fill and then sprint to the end. Does he blend to the left here? No, he just follows the racing line through the turn, cutting across the pit entry as drivers usually do. And 131.8. So my prediction has not worked out, Joey. It looks like Troncoso is just driving his own race here.
Here comes a whole host of cars. Nane Tavares, Simon Theriault, and likely a few others are going to follow him in later in the pack, but these guys are going to blink. If you remember, Vincent Trepanier came into the pits with about 30 minutes to go. That tells you that you can definitely come in this late in the running and still have the fuel to go for it. Dominic Olivier sets the fastest lap of the race, though, with a 131.5. He's faster than Manuel Troncoso right now. Theoretically on pace, if the stops were the same, Olivier would jump Troncoso on track right now, but how much shorter is that Troncoso pit stop going to be? How much fuel has he been able to save controlling the pace of this race? That's what we have to wait for. He's got to be able to pit this time or the next time around, and we'll see if he's able to make up all this time he's losing on track right now with a shorter pit stop.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Have a look at the sector times there. Olivier, a little bit slower on this lap so far, but we're coming up to the second sector line here. 33 1/3 seconds from Troncoso. And Olivier coming up to there, and that is 2/10 gained there. So Olivier still decidedly quicker than Troncoso right now. And it looks to me like Troncoso is going for it. He's coming into the pits.
And well, Troncoso, 9 minutes to go. He's going to come down pit lane, and you have to imagine that everybody else behind's going to come in, and that looks to be the case. Crisp is in, Levaik is in, Jaquez. Bring everybody down to pit lane. It's a pit party. And now we wait for the big numbers. Dominic Olivier, 7.6 seconds in the box when he came in. How short is this stop going to be for Troncoso? And he also has the first pit stall to exit pit lane, 6.9 seconds. A very nice stop for him. Is it going to be nice enough to take over the race lead? It's going to be a race off of pit lane. Troncoso's got the shorter run on the inside, but Olivier's going to have the speed built up. And it's going to be a battle into the corner off Red Raposta. Both of them have a full head of steam. Troncoso's going to take over track position. He's got a little bit colder tires, though, from that short run through pit lane. Olivier's got to pounce now if he's going to pounce ever.
Yeah, he has got those tires fully up to temperature. He is in the rhythm. Troncoso's rhythm will have been broken by that pit stop. He needs to try and get his focus back here because that Ferrari is getting ever closer through Ferradura. Here we go. There's the dive.
He sends the dive into the corner. He's going to use Troncoso as a brake. He's going to force him out wide, but that's the move Olivier thinks he had to make. He had to go for it when he had the opportunity, and he's got the position, but now he's got to hold off a very hungry and a very angry Troncoso who sends the dive back into Pico de Pato. He's going to take the race lead back for just a moment. Olivier's going to have the inside coming down the hill, though, and it's going to go back to the order of Dominic Olivier. Troncoso's not going to give this up, though. He's fired up. He knows he's the fastest driver in the field, and he's got a huge run up over the top of the hill. They're going to be side by side down the front straight.
Oh, what a good bit of racing. The return serve from Manuel Troncoso, and he couldn't quite get the run he wanted out of... Oh, that's a bit of a squeeze there, coming down the start-finish straight. They are banging door handles, banging mirrors, banging wheels on the way into turn one, and holding the inside is the Ferrari. This is a great battle.
And you know who this makes very happy? Martin Crisp is sitting back there in third saying, I was out of this, and suddenly with the haymakers these guys are throwing at each other, I may be in consideration here. Olivier blocks all the way to the grass. Down the back straight, they're interlocking doors down the back straight again. Olivier's gonna hang on, but these guys are millimeters away from destroying each other. Troncoso to the inside, bumps off of Olivier. He's going to have to make it work the long way around through Ferradura. That's going to be very difficult to do. Can he do the Olivier move and switch back to the inside? Dominic's going to try and cover it off. He's not going to be able to. Troncoso on the curb. Uses Olivier as a curb himself. They're still going at it. They're still side by side. Troncoso's going to be forced out wide, and Olivier can breathe for just a moment. It's not going to be many moments, though.
Yeah, he's going to be driving in his mirrors, and Troncoso is going to be fired up here. This is fantastic. This is the finish that we've been building up to for the last 35 minutes of this race. What can Troncoso do from here? Once again, has to focus on his exits. We know that his one-lap pace is supreme over everyone else, but during this race, he's just been backing off a little bit. He hasn't quite been able to match his qualifying pace. He is strong in the slipstream, though. Look at how much he's gaining.
The dive gonna come here already. He looks to the inside. Olivier moves over and blocks that off, but that's gonna put even more fury in the eyes of Manuel Troncoso. He's gonna be a little bit like his car. He's feeling like a dragon right now with all these blocks. And how many more times can Olivier get away with it? Down the Red Pasta again. Troncoso sucking up to the back of that Ferrari. To the outside in the brake zone. Looks to the inside. Looks on the grass. He's not going to find the door open there. This is absolute insanity between these two. Just throwing everything at it. Dominic Olivier throwing things to the fastest driver in the field because that's all he can do. He's got to close the door every time it opens. And it's opening many, many times. Here comes Troncoso to the inside again, hops over the curb. It's rallycross now for Manuel, and he's got to wait through the middle sector to catch back up now.
Yeah, goodness, and you see how much they took out of the inside of the right-hander there? Both of them are pushing incredibly hard. The gap has increased now just for a moment. Doesn't look like either of them got a slowdown from that. You can cut that corner quite a bit, but they would have gotten an off track. And don't forget, 13 incidents, and that's a drive-through. These two have definitely made contact a few times. I don't know if it's enough for a 4X, but they've definitely been getting 1Xs in the midst of this battle.
It's going to be 3 laps to go at the line. If Troncoso is going to make this happen, he does not have very long to do it. He's going to be too far back for a dive into turn 1 this time, but that Mercedes has been very slippery in a straight line, and Troncoso's been very good in the brakes. For the first time, we've got a real test of the braking abilities of these two, separated by a little bit of a wall of air, and Troncoso kind of staying put about 5/10ths back. On the exit of the Senna S, though, has a better exit, has a better run. He is closing that gap down again. He's going to be a little bit too far back to go for a move this time, but he is closing. He's coming back. He's going to have some more shots at this.
Yeah, you see he's just making up bits of time in the braking zones, sticking in the slipstream on the straights. There's a change for third, meanwhile. Martin Crisp and Guillaume Levesque, they are fighting hard there through to Interlagos, and the Mercedes is up into P3.
Yeah, you saw that in the background. Guillaume pounced when he got the chance. That's the first time somebody's actually been able to pass Martin Crisp today, and he's still looking forward at this battle. If these two come together, which is still very possible, Guillaume Levesque could be in a very good position to take his first win of the season. But Dominic Olivier in the lead hasn't won yet this season either. That's why he's fighting so hard. He won last season in both this series and in the Formula C series, but he's been on the back foot this season. He's had some bad luck, he's had some incidents, and he is putting on the race of his life right now. It's going to be 2 laps to go at the line, and he's only got 4/10ths over Troncoso now. He's got a great run up over the top of the hill.
Yep, looks like it's going to be the start of the second last lap here. Oh boy. Yeah, have a look at the run that Troncoso got out of Junsao. You saw how much curb they were using on the exit too. This is absolute maximum driving that these two are putting on at the moment. Troncoso very close there through the first couple of turns, through the Senna S, through Curva de Sol. What's the traction like for the Mercedes here? Olivier still not thinking about going defensive. Troncoso still not quite close enough, but that could change down here at Interlagos.
Troncoso later on the brakes. He's looking like a dog. He's sniffing the rear end of Dominic Olivier's Ferrari, and he is so close. I have a feeling we're going to see another one of those dives coming into the hairpin here. He looks to the outside through Ferradura to try and switch things back on Olivier rather, but the door is going to be closed absolutely shut by Olivier again. He's going to force Troncoso to look the long way around. He's going to have to look the long way around through Pinarino now as he's forced to the off-camber side of the track. He's going to have a better exit, though, into Bico de Pato. Can he look to the inside? Is the door going to be open? It's not going to be open again, but he is within 1/10 of a second. That's how close you need to be to use the full advantage of the draft down the front straight. And if Troncoso can get a good exit through Yunsao here, as we take the white flag this time, we're going to take this down to the final lap of the race.
That we are. This is fantastic. Troncoso is close enough that he could have a run into the first turn here. Now, remember what I said earlier. You can make the outside line at turn 1 work. Olivier is definitely going to leave the door closed on the inside, but have a look at the momentum that Troncoso has. They are banging side by side in the braking zone. Oh, goodness, it is bumper cars out there right now.
Dominic Olivier still sticking the elbows out, but this is the final lap. Only a few more corners for Manuel Troncoso to make this move. He's been unsuccessful so many times. He's had the doors banged off that Mercedes. He's not even going to get the insurance money back. He's going to look to the inside. The inside's closed, though, and he's got to wait for the middle sector now. He's going for the switch back down the hill, though. The gap comes down. The door opens. Olivier is going to be on the outside. He's going to be on the inside, coming up through Ferradura for the final time, though. And we know Olivier has not been afraid to use the doors. He's not been afraid to run Troncoso wide, and he does exactly that. But here comes Manuel on the curve again. Runs Olivier out of the way. Dominic's still there. He's still got a nose to the inside. Makes contact with Troncoso. An excellent save from Manuel, but that's the 3rd or 4th time he's been hit by Olivier. He is going to be eternally frustrated, and we may see the dive of the century coming through Yunsao here. Is he close enough to go for one more lunge on Olivier, or has he used up all of his challenges? The clock ticks to 0. The race is over at the line through the final corner. Has Olivier gotten a good enough exit? It's going to be a drag race to the line now. Troncoso clipped the grass a little bit, 2.5 back, but in the draft and the run to the line, it's been the battle of the season. It's been full contact sports car racing, and the reign of terror is ended because Dominic Olivier wins for the first time this season. He gets it done in the PRL GT3 Sprint Series, and I'm going to lose my voice, Reese.
Oh, all right. Let me pick it up for you. Goodness gracious, that was some hard and fast racing. Plenty of contact involved in that as well, but crucially, didn't result in either driver spinning off. Looks like Ray Dominguez is going to win the battle over Ethan Bass for 15th place, and Arnaud Jeunesse manages to pass Ted Lowendick and get into 17th place. The finishers filtering back. I've got to say, it's been quite the awful race for Vincent Trepanier, finishing down in 25th spot after that spin coming off the first lap. Tell you what, things are going to look very different in the championship coming out of this round.
They are indeed, and the thing we didn't really notice as Olivier and Troncoso were battling, look at the gap Guillaume Levique was able to make up. Only 3.5 seconds behind the line. It was about 7 seconds, about 4 laps before the finish. And you can see him kind of posing with his other teammates. They are going to be very happy. Some of them are going to be unhappy. Andrew Caron able to recover into 14th. He's going to be somewhat happy with his recovery, but Guillaume Levique may be in the championship lead after today. We'll have to wait for those calculations. What we do have for sure is the race results. Dominic Olivier, dominant Dominic at times last season, finally shows his true colors again and wins over Manuel Troncoso. It's going to be maybe a controversial win for both of them. I think both him and Manuel leaned on each other enough that it kind of evened out. It was full contact sports car racing. It was the best race of the season, and Dominic comes out on top. Guillaume Levique quietly in 3rd place. He did a great job to hang on to that podium after getting by Martin Crisp. And Nane Tavares in the top 5. Excellent race from him. I believe his best result ever in the PRL. A driver we don't talk about enough, but he's always quietly up there. Simon Theriault fell to 6th ahead of Bouclé d'Or, Charles-Etienne Boucher. Fernando Jaquez down in 8th ahead of Mr. Z, Dalton Zavadil. And Josiah Farrow as well, his best race of the season, I believe. P10 for him for the Lease Esports driver. Michael Terrafino, P11 ahead of Kevin Simpson. That McLaren did pretty well. And Andrew Caron actually up to P13, not P14. Still alive in the championship after his mostly worst race of the season. He did crash out in the season opener, but he's still going to be happy with the recovery there. Ryan Puctel, 14th. Rapid Ray Dominguez, 14th. The Bassmaster, Ethan Bass, down to 16th. And then Janae, Lowendick, and Norris down to 19th. JP Alfonso is having an excellent race in 11th. Did fall to 20th at the end of things, but still P20 for him on his comeback. He showed a lot of speed today, and he's going to take that confidence into the rest of the season. Gonsalves, Nin, McLaughlin, Delano, Trepanier, Hinkson, Loomis, Bachelard, and Nasser bring us down to the end of the lead lap cars, and surprisingly little attrition today. After all the drama, after all the chaos, the used car lot is only a few cars deep. Tyler Campbell ended up 10 laps down. Diego Ere, 16 laps down. Keith Maines, Miguel Angel Fonseca, David Mendonça, Marc-Andre Desjardins, and Juan Malagon bring us to the end of the used car lot and round out the field. But after an absolutely insane battle, who else could we possibly talk to but the guy who had a front row seat to it all? Dominic Olivier, race winner. You and Troncoso were just throwing punches at each other for the last 10 laps. How crazy was that?
That was the most fun I ever had racing in combat. I knew I had to get my elbows out with him. A little bit over the line at times, but I really wanted that win.
So I will ask, you both did make a lot of contact with each other, but do you think with the way you were both racing, did it even out between you two?
I think so. I mean, that first move on me, it was now or never then. I tried to do a different strategy, and he's a smart racer. I knew he would do the opposite to me, which would be to not take a tire. If he took a tire, we were going to end up having the exact same delta time. So he didn't take the tire, and so he was able to save fuel and have a shorter stop. The traffic didn't help me either, but yeah, I think we were fair. He didn't take me out. He could have taken me out many times. My first move was a little aggressive, but I think it was good fun.
So next week is kind of the big wild card, Lebanon, the new track. Have you done any practice there yet? Are you ready to go to a new track, and how do you think you'll fare?
I was fearing the track. I wasn't interested. I was contemplating just missing the round, but then I had a couple laps. I go over a couple laps with it, and it felt really good. Felt like a little rallycross roller coaster ride. So actually looking forward to it. Not very popular this week in officials, but we'll have fun.
Well, Dom, congrats on what I think everybody will agree as the most exciting win of the season. I'm angry at you because you made me make my throat hurt, but I'm thankful for the best battle. Thank you, Dom, and
Thank you,
we'll
Joey.
see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Him and Manuel really putting on a show for us. And the guy who almost had a front row seat to that, we've got our third place finisher Guillaume Levesque as well, and he'll get to talk to Reese Gardner after a comparatively calm race.
Well, I would say that, Joey, but Guillaume, that was an incredible rise up through the field, starting 13th and up to 3rd. You were obviously going through a lot there.
Yeah, I had a little bit of chance by my little friend Lucky Charm at the start, and after it was about saving fuel and race strategy at the pits. I did a little mistake by taking a tires. It made me waiting like 2 seconds on jacks, too much. I would have end up, I think, in front of everybody right from the bat after the pits, but with the straight line speed and the new tire, it was kind of easy to make the pass on the Ferrari. So yeah, it was a really good race for me. Pretty sad for my 2 teammates that spun at the start, but yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for Lisa Esports coming into the last few rounds of the season with Andrew and Vincent in the top 2 coming into this round. So, what do you think the debrief's going to be like there?
It will be pretty chill. I think it's for fun that we are doing those league. Obviously, we are competitive and we want to win, but yeah, at the first we are friends and we are teammates, so it will not be like harsh or bad things.
Of course. Well, Guillaume, congratulations once again. That's a fantastic points haul for you. Hopefully, we get another chance to talk to you at Lebanon.
Yes, for sure. Thanks to Advanced Sim Racing, Advanced Motorsport, and to you guys.
All right, thanks very much there to Guillaume Levesque for bringing this to a close, Joey. What a broadcast that was.
Yeah, what's the length limit for the iRacing top 10? Because we're gonna have to send about 10 minutes of that to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be massive. I mean, we're seeing it in slow-mo, aren't we? This fantastic battle between Dominic Olivier and Manuel Troncoso. I mean, that's 2 fantastic battles for the lead in 2 nights that I've been commentating here on RaceSpot. I think 2 for 2 ain't bad.
And how coincidental that both of them were Precision Racing esports drivers. They're really showing up in their own league. They're doing some great jobs. And we're very, very thankful for that. We're gonna have to break out some heavy-duty file sharing. We're gonna have to go on Signiant, I think, to send this to iRacing. But we'll figure that out in the meantime. But for now, that's gonna be the end of all the GT3 racing. I hate to break it to you on Tuesday night. Tomorrow night, we've got some NASCAR-style racing for you. The Truck Series and the Grand National Series take on Phoenix. I should have remembered that. I'm not actually going to be on the race. I got a race ban, but that's beside the point. For now, we thank you for tuning in here. I've been Joey Tebben. Reese Gardner's been Reese Gardner, and our producer has been Dustin Alice. But until we see you next time, so long.